Chapter 29:20. The northern wind howled. In the direction of the prison, prisoners in prison uniforms with the word "special" on them stood with their left hands in their pockets. They either twisted their necks or stared coldly ahead. The howling wind blew sand and dust into the air, ruffling their clothes. The only unfortunate thing was they hadn't been set to music. Yizichin reckoned that, with their entrance set to young and dangerous music, it would definitely be enough. Originally, the eastern and southern districts were facing off against each other. When they saw the special join the fight, they lowered their weapons. They really dare to come. Brother Jiez's eyes flashed with disdain. The baldy from the eastern district had a similar expression. It seems like we'll have to put off our business for a bit. Up to you, Brother Jiez said indifferently. If you want to deal with him first, then deal with him. In any case, this woman isn't leaving today. You're overthinking things. The baldy sneered coldly. When Brother Jie first arrived, he did give him some face. After all, he was someone who could make a lion lower its head. Unfortunately, giving him face didn't mean he was afraid of him. In his eyes, the entire prison wasn't worth his attention. Big Sister Xing, special. Of course, the people who'd come weren't just from the southern and eastern districts. There were also people from the western and northern districts who'd come to watch the show. Among them, the person in charge of the northern district, Yuqi Xing, was one of them. She was the only female boss in the entire prison, and her jurisdiction was the northern district. She'd never had any grudges with the special. It was just that White Bear had been disrespectful to her and said some things he shouldn't have, which caused her to start targeting the special. But she wasn't targeting everyone. They were the ones who'd followed White Bear around and caused trouble. Haozi, who was now following Yizichin, was one of them. This guy was truly a master at adapting to the situation. White Bear had been the boss back then, so he'd followed him without hesitation. Now, he was doing the same with Yizichin. Later, she heard that White Bear had already died. She didn't bother with the special class anymore and didn't continue to cause trouble for them. This time, she'd come here. She simply wanted to see His Majesty. As for anything else, she didn't have much interest. I see. The person in charge of the northern district, Yuqi Xing, nodded slightly. She had the appearance of a leader. She was clearly a woman, but her long and narrow red phoenix eyes revealed a heart-palpitating coldness. Even if her tone is very gentle. He seemed to be laughing. The northerners who followed her here couldn't help but shiver. This His Majesty of the human race doesn't seem to be as ridiculous as the rumors out there. The short-haired woman beside Yuqi Xing couldn't help but be stunned. She looked ahead and said, "Sister Xing, how can you tell? I feel that this person is very ordinary." "Who are you looking at?" "It's the one at the very front with a stick in his hand. How could he be the human race's majesty?" Yuqi Xing shook her head with a smile. "The one at the back with both hands in his pockets, hiding behind everyone else." The short-haired girl was startled. "Why, Sister Xing, you've seen him before?" "I didn't see him, but some people could sense his special aura with just a glance, and then he attracted the attention of others." Yuqi Xing whispered, "Look at that person walking in the back. Everyone, including the women, looks like they're facing a great enemy. Only that person's eyes are clear and calm. Furthermore, none of the people walking behind him dare to walk in the same row as him. That's enough to prove how special he is. It's clear that the person walking at the very front is someone he intentionally pushed out. But he's hiding in the back. He doesn't seem like a hero, does he?" The short-haired woman twitched her mouth. "He's the boss, but he doesn't dare walk at the very front. He's afraid of the slightest thing and even gave his woman to someone else. People like that are the worst." Yuqi Xing didn't retort. Of course, she couldn't be bothered. Was His Majesty of the human race really that bad? In her opinion, not necessarily. If Jiangnan really had a conflict with Yizichin and chose to transfer, the best place to go would be the northern district, which was under her jurisdiction. She was a woman. She'd always treated female prisoners well. There was no need for her to choose between the eastern and southern districts. The northern district was absolutely her first choice. Even if she was worried about her own situation and didn't want to cause trouble for the northern district, logically speaking, she should have sent someone to contact the northern district. From start to finish, She hadn't seen anyone from the Northern District. Furthermore, judging from the current situation, her decision to go to the Eastern District had thrown the entire prison into chaos. The Eastern and Southern Districts had brought people to fight. No matter how she looked at it, there was no need for that. Even if she wanted to get revenge for herself, choosing the Northern District would still help her get revenge. Why would His Majesty of the human race choose to come here? Yu Qixing was somewhat surprised. He should have had some way of knowing that the Eastern and Southern Districts had turned out in full force. Under these circumstances, he should have chosen to avoid them. But he still chose to come here. Wasn't that proof of one thing? He had absolute confidence in his own strength. Or perhaps he planned all of this on his own initiative. If it was the latter, even though Yu Qixing found it interesting, she wanted to see just what he was going to do. His Majesty of the human race. Don't let me disappoint you. I've already waited too long. Yu Qixing muttered to herself. At the same time, the special forces had already arrived at the center of the major districts. The man at the front with the stick subconsciously gulped down a mouthful of saliva. He was a bit afraid. This time, the big shots of all 4 districts had come. Furthermore, the Southern and Eastern districts had turned out in full force. Come on, who's the Milky Way Lord who got scared out of his wit by a single sentence? Step forward and show me. Big Brother Jie of the Southern District roared with laughter. The man at the very front subconsciously glanced behind him. He really wasn't Yi Zichen. On their way here, Yi Zichen had suddenly arranged for him to walk in front in disguise. You are, aren't you? Suddenly, the man with the stick felt his shoulder being covered by someone. When he turned around, he discovered it was the new boss of the Southern District, Big Brother Jie. The man took a deep breath, then glared at Big Brother Jie with a cold snort. What? Oh, you've got pretty good eyes. Big Brother Jie didn't seem to be intimidated in the slightest. In truth, deterrence depended on the person. When you were absolutely confident, you wouldn't take anyone's threats seriously, and vice versa. He didn't take the Milky Way Lord seriously at all. What was there to be afraid of? Chapter 29-21. Old Cheng was panicking. He wasn't really good at brawling. He hadn't come to the special district because he'd done anything outrageous. It was just a financial scam. That's right. The way he saw it, he'd used it perfectly. It was just as White Bear had said at the beginning, who in prison hadn't killed a few people. That wasn't nonsense. Even the women here, they might have killed before. He hadn't. He was very confused as to why he'd come to prison for a bunch of murderers. He'd used a certain method. He got some points from some of the dumber people. It wasn't a huge amount, just 40 billion or so. That's right. He still believed that he'd used it perfectly. He believed that a few tens of billions of points wasn't much. His goal was 1 trillion. This was nothing. Little did he know, his actions had shattered countless families and caused countless people to commit suicide. Although he hadn't killed anyone directly, he'd killed even more indirectly. That was why he'd come to the special district. To put it bluntly, none of the people here were innocent. However, he really didn't know how to fight. He didn't want to come, but he was afraid of being ostracized. Although Yi Zichen had made it very clear, it didn't matter if he didn't come. Who knew if he was telling the truth or not? He'd still come just to be safe. Reality proved that. It wasn't just him. Everyone else had come. Their thoughts weren't that different from his own. However, he was very smart. He wanted to climb up the ladder and gain Yi Zichen's approval. That was how he'd ended up pretending to be Yi Zichen. He thought he was just pretending to have nothing to fear. However, he hadn't expected, when he really came here, his legs and stomach trembled uncontrollably. It was too scary. He was extremely regretful. However, he knew that he couldn't let the cat out of the bag. If he did, Yi Zichen might kill him. What? Old Cheng intentionally used what he thought was a rather domineering tone and gaze as he looked coldly at Brother Jie. Stop being an eyesore. If you don't want to die, then scram. Brother Jie suddenly laughed out loud. He turned around and looked at his subordinates. Did you hear that? The Milky Way Lord said something mean to me. I'm so scared. Instantly, everyone in the south side roared with laughter. Jie Ji's shoulders trembled with laughter. He immediately turned around and swung his hand towards Old Cheng's face. But before that slap could fall, He had not Yi Zichen arrive beside old Cheng like the wind, while Jiji's arm was also held tightly by Yi Zichen. In that instant, Yu Qixing and Guan Feng couldn't help but frown. Did you see that? An expert. Yu Qixing muttered softly. Her smile seemed to indicate that she was extremely interested in Yi Zichen, or perhaps satisfied. What expert? The short-haired woman was puzzled. Forget it. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. Yu Qixing sighed helplessly. Just watch. Sis, are we not going back? Why go back? Isn't it just starting? But you said that you were here to take a look at that His Majesty of the human race. And now, we've seen him for ourselves. Let's continue watching. It's quite interesting. A smile lingered in Yu Qixing's eyes. The expected result did not appear. Instead, Yi Zichen grabbed his arm. Jiegu knitted his eyebrows and looked at the ordinary-looking, yet disgusting young man. Do you want to die? You're Jieji of the South Side, right? Don't be so angry, Yi Zichen laughed. We're all living in the same prison. Why do we have to fight? That's not good. Who are you? I am the special Lil Gu. Yi Zichen touched his ear and smiled honestly. I'm now His Majesty's personal bodyguard, commonly known as a thug. Thug? You? Jieji sneered coldly. I'm not that strong, Yi Zichen shrugged. But His Majesty has a lot of points. He promised to give me 500 million later. Although I'm rather afraid of death, I'm even more afraid of being poor. How about this? Jieji, let's both take a step back. Our boss came back to find that little beauty, Jiangnan. What do you think? A Milky Way lord dares to want Jiangnan? Jieji said in disdain. Yes, of course, Yi Zichen sighed. Our Milky Way lord loves Jiangnan dearly. How can we not want her? Otherwise, what did we even come back for? Actually, Jiangnan misunderstood. With that, Yi Zichen shouted at Jiangnan. Jiangnan, you misunderstood the Milky Way lord. He never said he was going to give you to the South District. He was just joking. Who would have thought you'd take it seriously? You, hurry up and come back. From now on, you'll still be our special sister-in-law. Jiangnan, who stood beside the baldy, frowned. What did he mean? Was he telling her to go back, or was he just saying it for fun? That wasn't part of the original plan. Also, what was this Lil Gu doing? Why did he pretend to be someone else? He didn't say anything back then. Jiangnan was confused. She didn't know what to do. She wanted Yi Zichen to give her more signals. Come back. Come back. Yi Zichen waved his hands. Jiangnan tilted her head and frowned. Come back. Understood. This time, Jiangnan finally understood Yi Zichen's signal. I can't go back. Although he said he was going back, he kept waving and nodding his head. Nodding and coming back. Double affirmation meant no. That meant she needed to say something that would cause conflict between the two of them. Oh, what do you think I am? A dog. Jiangnan snorted. You think you can come and go on my beck and call? I'm telling you, I can't go back. What's going on? Yi Zichen looked at her silently for a while. Come back. I already wave at you like that. What are you still doing there? If Yi Zichen knew what Jiangnan was thinking, he would definitely kneel down. Double affirmation, my ass. Hurry up and come back. Otherwise, how is Jiangnan supposed to get out of this? She had already said it to that extent. Then, even if everyone snatched it away, wouldn't she have a bad reputation if she came back? However, Jiangnan didn't know that. She was still immersed in her emotions. I'm already with the big bro of the East District. I'm much better here than in your shitty place. Also, what do you think we came here for? We came for revenge. I'm going to pay you back tenfold, 100-fold for the 3 slaps you gave me. All of a sudden, Yi Zichen's heart turned cold. Sister, what kind of trouble are you causing? Chapter 29-22. How should he deal with this? According to Yi Zichen's thoughts, if Jiangnan chose to side with the Eastern District and let the people of the Eastern District come out, the Southern District would definitely come looking for them. That way, their targets would roughly converge. At that moment, Yi Zichen explained a bit, causing Jiangnan to change her mind and return to the special base. At this moment, the Eastern District would definitely fly into a rage out of humiliation. The Baldy had brought people to cause trouble for Jiangnan, and he had chosen to disguise himself as a charging lackey to get rid of these people. This way, he could not only ensure that his identity would not be exposed, but he would also be able to plunder enough points. He could also protect Jiangnan's face. Moreover, he would be displaying his special strength to the public, so that they would pay more attention to him. That's right, Yi Zichen had taken on Old Cheng's appearance, and Old Cheng was him. This was all part of his plan. He had already steeled his heart to make himself into someone who was incapable and unworthy of attention. A simple fake identity was useless. His identity was fake, and he didn't disguise himself. He dealt with all these people in front of so many people. In the future, he would definitely become a celebrity in the prison. At that time, it was inconvenient for him to move around. That way, it would be easier for Yi Zichen to carry out his plans in private. Unfortunately, Jiangnan wasn't back yet. Ha ha ha. It was also at this time that the boss of the Eastern District, Baldy, laughed wantonly. Kid, stop dreaming. Now, Jiangnan belongs to me. Heh, I think you're dreaming. Brother Jia of the Southern District sneered. Do you think you can walk out of here alive? His cold tone instantly caused the entire back mountain to descend into a severe chill. Oh, is that so? The boss of the Eastern region could not help but shake his head and smile. In the blink of an eye, his gaze turned sinister. Do you think our brothers in the Eastern region are all vegetarians? What do you eat have to do with me? Jiega shrugged slightly. Even if you eat shit, so what? Brothers from the East Side? Do you think you're the only one with brothers, and our South Side doesn't have any? Everyone at South Side took a step forward with sticks in their hands. Seeing this, the people from the Eastern District also stepped forward with their sticks. The confrontation of thousands of people and the solemn murderous aura covered the entire back mountain. There seemed to be sparks between the two of them. A great battle was about to break out. Seeing this, Yi Zichen arched his eyebrows and couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Since ancient times, beautiful women were the source of trouble. That was right. Look, just for Jiangnan, it seemed like the two major districts of the prison were ready to make a move. Why not watch the fun for a while? Yi Zichen touched his lips and couldn't help but chuckle evilly in his heart. Letting them fight amongst themselves for a bit, then I'll clean up the mess. He was right. Brilliant plan. Yi Zichen nodded in satisfaction, then signaled towards Jiangnan with his eyes. What do you mean? Jiangnan pursed her lips as she furrowed her brows. Why was he the one who'd sent the signal? Back in prison, she didn't have much of an impression. However, Yi Zichen's expression hadn't changed at all. In fact, he was a bit nervous. Could it be that he was afraid that others would find out and deliberately let the people in the prison send her a message? But the two of them did not have a tacit understanding. She couldn't figure out what this person was trying to do. Little did he know that all of this was what she wanted. Right now, Yi Zichen was giving her a signal. She couldn't understand it purely because she and Zhao Yi Zichen didn't have enough chemistry. What happened? Jiang, this should be quite smart. Why does she look so dumb now? Yi Zichen frowned slightly, then signaled Jiangnan with his eyes. Jiangnan's brows were also furrowed. Forget it. I'll just let her do whatever she wants. Even if something went wrong, she could just blame it on that person for not giving her a proper signal. I don't care who wants me. I've already given up on myself. Women in prison still need to rely on men. I don't care how you fight amongst yourselves. I'll follow whoever can help me vent my frustrations. Jiangnan looked as if she'd given up on herself. When he heard this, Yi Zichen wanted nothing more than to put on an oxygen tank. Heavens! Did she even know what she was talking about? This was originally an easy problem to solve, but now that she'd said it, the flames of war between the two sides had been dragged into this. This was too difficult. Big sister, do you want our special forces to be annihilated? Yi Zichen couldn't help but transmit with his divine power. In truth, he didn't want to transmit with his divine will. It wasn't like maintaining an illusion. The energy fluctuations were relatively small and hard to detect. This sort of transmission had an extremely wide range. If the ancestral dragon clan noticed, they might follow the fluctuations and find him. If that happened, his identity as a god would be exposed. But he really couldn't bear it any longer. When Jiangnan received the transmission, she froze. She looked at the fake Yi Zichen in astonishment. Where are you looking? Look over here. Yi Zichen transmitted again, then glanced meaningfully at Jiangnan. Only now did Jiang Nan realize that this was Yi Zichen. You don't need to do anything right now. I just want to ask you, can't you read my signal? Yi Zichen frowned. I told you to come back, so you came back? If you didn't come back, fine, but why didn't you start a conflict between the eastern and southern districts? Why did you tell them to focus on the special forces? Jiang Nan fell silent. I really can't take it anymore. You wasted all my trust in you. Turns out you're just a fool, said Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen retorted. Really? Wasn't the signal I gave earlier obvious enough? Yi Zichen took a deep breath, then stopped transmitting. There was no point in transmitting now. Just now, he simply couldn't help but complain. As for making arrangements, what was there to make? He'd already said it all. Was there any room for redemption? Yi Zichen rubbed his nose, then licked his lips and smiled. You want to touch our Milky Way Lord? Wait, I have something to say. Before Yi Zichen could finish, Yu Qixing suddenly walked out and nodded towards the surrounding people. When she reached Yi Zichen, she purposely squinted her eyes with a smile. I don't have any intention of getting in your way. It's just that little sister Jiang Nan's words just now made me feel a bit emotional. I feel like she's being too absolute. Why must women rely on men? Women can also hold up half the sky. That's you? Jiang Nan smiled wryly. I can. Why can't you? Yu Qixing shrugged. Also, I have another question. Why didn't you choose me, and instead chose the Baldy? Do you think I can't protect you? How about this? Come to me. I'll protect you. I do want to see who dares to steal people from me. With that, Yi Zichen, who was standing behind Yu Qixing, suddenly felt like his brain was lacking oxygen. His hand trembled. Hurry up and give me an oxygen tank. Chapter 2923. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2918. Hand over the person, and I'll spare your worthless life. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2924. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2919. Next, please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2925. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2920. Please hurry and make a decision. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2926. One man can hold the pass against 10,000. That was Yi Zichen's current state as he stood proudly in front of the people of the South and East districts. The disdain in his eyes was obvious. The Baldy of the East district laughed out loud, then pointed towards Yi Zichen with a mocking gaze. You actually want to steal all of our points? Do you know how many people there are in the East district? I don't have time to waste with you. I'll just ask you one thing. Are you going to surrender or wait for me to do it myself? Come and try. Even though Yi Zichen could instantly take care of Iron Bull, the Baldy of the East district had nothing to fear. How could he be afraid of the thousands of people behind him? Is that what you think as well? Yi Zichen tilted his head and glanced at Brother Jia of the South district. Brat, I can't be bothered with you. If you insist on coming here to look for trouble, then I don't mind teaching you a lesson. Brother Jia's expression was cold. When Yi Zichen saw his disdainful gaze, Yi Zichen couldn't help but nod with a smile. Then his gaze instantly turned cold. Then I'll start with you first. In an instant, an afterimage flashed by. No one saw what Yi Zichen did. All they heard was a scream. The boss of the South District, Brother Jia, was already on the ground with his arm twisted. Yi Zichen stepped on his chest and looked at the people of the South District. Who wants to get revenge for him? Everyone in the South District was completely silent. They stared at Brother Jia, who was being stepped on by Yi Zichen, then subconsciously looked towards their former boss, Lion. At that moment, Lion's eyes were filled with terror. He never thought that Brother Jia would be subdued so easily. Brother Jia, who was on the ground, was in a similar state. He couldn't resist at all. In other words, they weren't even on the same level. This person was ridiculously strong. I am willing to surrender, my lord. Lion thought for a moment, then knelt on the ground. There was no need to struggle. The person in front of them wasn't on the same level as them at all. There was no comparison between them. Even if they all attacked together, there was no hope. This person definitely had the power to deal with the entire South District. Seeing Lion kneel, everyone in the South District knelt down as well. "We are willing to pledge allegiance to you." The entire South Side bowed down to them. This scene was somewhat shocking. Even Yizichin raised his eyebrows in surprise. Yizichin thought to himself, "These people are really pushovers. They clearly have so many people, but they don't dare to fight Yizichin." As expected, what general leads what soldiers? The soldiers were fierce, and the generals were fierce in a nest. After the former leader of the South Sector, Lion, knelt down, everyone else knelt down as well. It was somewhat comical and pitiful. That was good too. That would save them a lot of effort, and Yizichin would make things easier for them. Yes, he would leave some points for them. "Rat, here!" Special Rat rushed out in a hurry. At this moment, his eyes were also lingering with shock, but more than that, there was surprise. "Go keep an eye on them. No one is allowed to run." With that, Yizichin looked back at the bald man in the Eastern District, as well as his subordinates. How so? Are you going to resist and wait for me to personally take action, or are you going to surrender now? I'm actually quite easy to talk to. What's more, our Milky Way Lord said that as long as you surrender of your own accord, we'll take half of your points. If you resist to the end, then we can only apologize to you. We'll take all of your points." Yizichin twisted his neck, then tapped his arm with his finger. "I'll give you half a minute to think about it." "How arrogant! You want us to count our points?" The bald man roared, his eyes bloodshot. "Do you think our East Sector is like the cowards of the South Sector? Brothers, kill him. Half." The bald man had about 100 billion points. It was the result of his life's work. If Yizichin took half of it, he might as well just kill him. "Kill him!" The bald man roared angrily. In response, his subordinates really did raise their weapons and charge forward. What a bunch of pitiful people. Yizichin looked silently at the surging crowd, then let out a long sigh, clenched his fists, and stretched. "It seems like I can finally move around." Instantly, Yizichin's figure turned into a blur. He charged through the crowd like a human-shaped tank. Miserable screams filled the air. Anyone who saw this from the outside couldn't help but click their tongues in shock. "Big sister, this fella, he's really ridiculous." The short-haired girl's eyes were filled with shock. She watched as Yizichin used his own strength to stir up a storm in the entire Eastern Sector, and no one could stop him. For a moment, it was as if he'd entered a no-man's land, doing as he pleased. Dong! Dong! One figure after another fell to the ground. Yizichin slowly walked towards the bald man, the leader of the Eastern Sector. Anyone who dared stand in his way was thrown to the ground and coughed up blood. The bald man was starting to panic. He'd underestimated the strength of the Eastern Sector and underestimated Yizichin's true strength. This guy was ridiculously terrifying. "Kill him!" The bald man was still shouting, but the people behind him had already seen what was happening. In their terror, quite a few people chose to surrender. "We surrender." More and more people threw down their clubs. Yizichin glanced at them. "Go to the Southern Sector and stand there." The criminals threw down their weapons and hurriedly ran towards the Southern Sector. During this time, the special criminals didn't stay idle. They kept a close eye on the people on the ground, in case they took advantage of the chaos to sneak into the surrender zone. Gradually, more and more people surrendered, and the bald man's subordinates dwindled. In the end, he was left alone. "You? Who the hell are you?" The bald man's eyes were filled with terror. Yizichin smiled, squinted his eyes, and glanced at him. "Chui Chung. Big brother Chui, this is all a misunderstanding. Didn't you want Jiangnan? I'll give her to you." The bald man shouted, his eyes filled with terror. Yizichin squinted his eyes and smiled, then grabbed Jiangnan's wrist and pulled her back. "I don't need you to give her to me. I snatch her back myself. Didn't I tell you long ago that you had to treasure the chance I gave you? Who told you to not treasure it? It's too late to give it to me now. No, I surrender. I surrender." The bald man knelt on the ground and raised his hands into the air. Yizichin patted his face. Surrender? Too late. Chapter 29-27. Who could have imagined to think that it would end up like this? The entire Southern District surrendered. The two leaders of the Eastern District and Southern District were both severely injured or disabled. The Eastern District suffered heavy losses. Half of them were labeled as resisting stubbornly, and the other half surrendered completely. As for those who witnessed everything, they were more or less shocked, and Chui Chang was deeply imprinted in their hearts. If he knew that boss was so fierce, he should have turned into me. Rat muttered. He began to feel jealous of Chui Chang. Needless to say, from today onwards, Chui Chang's reputation would soar in the prison. It wouldn't be a problem for him to walk sideways in prison in the future. It was only natural for women to throw themselves at him. How envious. What are you mumbling about? Hurry up and collect your points. Yi Zichen patted Rat's head, then took out 2-point stones, which naturally belonged to Baldy and Brother Jia. I'll kindly accept your point stones. Yi Zichen squatted on the ground with a chuckle and looked at the two prison leaders who were lying on the ground like dead dogs. Are you going to steal points? Do you need help? Yu Qixing suddenly walked in. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows and looked at her. You? Why are you here again? Are you here to express goodwill? Yu Qixing didn't bother to hide her smile. Sire's strength has left me in awe. For the future of our Northern District, I have no choice but to express my goodwill. I don't want the Northern District to fall to such a state. If you don't provoke us, we naturally won't come looking for you. In that case, that's great. Yu Qixing smiled, then looked at Jiang Nan, who stood beside Yi Zichen. Little sister Jiang Nan, you've returned to the special zone in the end. I'm just a bit confused. Why is little sister following Mr. Chui instead of going to the Milky Way Lord? Jiang Nan's expression froze. Of course, she wouldn't go to the Galactic Lord because she knew he was a fake. She chose to attach herself to Yi Zichen. She wasn't a casual person who could flirt with just anyone. From the looks of it, Jiang Nan is also related to Mr. Chui? Yu Qixing asked with a smile. Yi Zichen also frowned and looked at Yu Qixing for a long time. What do you mean? It's nothing. I'm just curious. Jiang Nan was the Milky Way Lord's woman, so she shouldn't be Mr. Choi's. Now that you're acting like this, it's hard to avoid misunderstandings, don't you think? Yu Qixing smiled. From her tone and eyes, she didn't seem to be curious, but more like a reminder. She seemed to have the intention to come here and specifically remind them. Jiang Nan, go find the Galactic Lord. Yi Zichen frowned. Jiang Nan hesitated for a moment, then left. Yu Qixing also smiled. That's more like it. Otherwise, it would be weird if someone saw us. Is there anything else? That's all. Also, do you guys need to plunder points? My level is relatively high, so I can help you guys snatch them back. No need. Yi Zichen replied coldly. Those who surrender will voluntarily hand over half of their points. There's no need to plunder. Then what about those who don't take the initiative? I can get it myself. Yi Zichen spread open the 2-point stones in his hands. One of them had 110 billion points, while the other had 30 billion. Being able to display the points meant that Yi Zichen already had the point stone in his possession. Seeing this, Yu Qixing raised her eyebrows. I didn't expect Sir to plunder to the max level as well. Since that's the case, then there's no need for me to worry about you. I'll be taking my leave now. Yu Qixing cupped her hand with a smile. Yu Qixing smiled and cupped her hands. She had only taken 2 steps when she stopped and whispered, Sir, don't forget that you still owe me a favor. You'll repay this favor, right? Naturally. I'm talking about you. I believe Sir understand what I mean. Sure. Yi Zichen didn't say anything else. Yu Qixing smiled in satisfaction, then turned around and left, until she walked out of the back mountain. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and looked at Yu Qixing's back. Just what does that woman do? I think I can tell. Yi Zichen nodded. Plundering points took 10-odd minutes. After collecting all of them, Yi Zichen and the others returned to the special area. Along the way, some guards tried to talk to them, but Yi Zichen ignored them all. The harvest this time was pretty good. Unfortunately, it wasn't as exaggerated as Yi Zichen had imagined. The points of several thousand prisoners only amounted to less than 2 trillion. That's right, it was over 1 trillion, but in the end, it was still a bit too little. Should we split it according to the ratio we discussed earlier? Yi Zichen had 400 billion points, while Haozi, Chui Cheng, and Jiang Nan each got 5%, giving them 100 billion. The rest of the prisoners all got several dozen billion points. All of the prisoners in the prison beamed with joy. This time, they'd reaped a huge harvest. They'd gotten back everything they'd taken from them with interest. Some of their assets had even multiplied by several times. Everyone was grateful to Yi Zichen. They said all sorts of flattering things. However, these points were still a bit too little for Yi Zichen. He'd thought that if he could directly break through to 1 trillion while in prison, he'd be able to stand at the peak of the ancestral dragon clan. It seemed like he'd been too naive. If he didn't split the points with the prisoners, he really could have gotten 1 trillion. What are you thinking about? Jiang Nan walked up and whispered. Yi Zichen rubbed his chin and sighed. Do you understand the ancestral dragon clan's point system? I kind of understand it. What about it? 1 trillion. Just what can it do? Yi Zichen frowned. Last time, I met a few trillion-level people. They seemed to be omnipotent. You're right. What do you mean, right? Omnipotent, Jiang Nan shrugged. 1 trillion. Your ability is omnipotent. In a place like the ancestral dragon clan, as long as you have enough points, you can have anything. However, most of you humans only buy some equipment or strength that can be taken away. The 400 billion you have right now is enough to buy a country lord. Country lord. 400 billion. Yes. What about sovereigns? 2 trillion sovereigns, 6 trillion sovereigns, and 40 trillion sovereigns. These are all clearly priced, and the success rate is 100%. Of course, you can also choose to buy sovereigns with a lower success rate. For example, sovereigns with a 50% success rate would only cost less than 300 billion points. Jiang Nan giggled. Jiang Nan chuckled and said in a low voice, Should I congratulate you now? You are already half of venerable. That is, if you're willing to bet. Chapter 29-28. Points, are they that useful? Yi Zichen had heard that he could buy cultivation levels, but he'd only heard about it from Zhu Yunjiu. He didn't know exactly how many points it would cost. At the time, he estimated that he definitely couldn't be short on points. Now, it seemed like that was indeed the case. 300 billion points could buy half a sovereign. 300 billion. That was already quite a lot, and it was only a 50% chance. If he didn't succeed, the 300 billion would be wasted. Disregarding everything else, how many of the people participating in the trial could get more than 300 billion points? Yi Zichen could probably count the number on 2 hands. It sounded like the ancestral dragon clan had a lot of power and could buy anything, including supreme experts. Unfortunately, when he thought about it carefully, the threshold was pretty high. It was still somewhat difficult to use points to purchase realms. What's more, he didn't want to buy cultivation levels for himself. If it were possible, he wanted to use the points to buy cultivation levels for Su Yin and Xia Kiki. He didn't know why, but he was obsessively confident in himself. Even if he didn't buy cultivation levels, he could still become a supreme expert. There was no helping it. He was just that confident. He'd pretty much gotten all the points in the prison. Now, he had to think about how to break out. There was no way he could stay here forever. Oh yeah, I'll give you my points. Jiang Nan took out her point stone. What are you doing? They'll be yours anyway. There's no difference between giving them to you now or after we get out. Wait, you really believe that I could take you out? Yi Zichen frowned at Jiang Nan. He didn't know why she was so confident in him. Even he himself didn't have absolute confidence that he could get out. Then who else can I trust? Jiang Nan shrugged. Just now, you took over the southern and eastern districts. You already showed your strength. There's no other person like you in the entire prison. If I don't trust someone like you, who else can I trust? Don't worry, I'm not pressuring you. Even if we can't get out, these points are yours anyway. Plus, I don't need them. If I stay here, I won't be able to use them. Once we get out, they'll belong to you, so it's only natural to give them to you. Jiang Nan smiled, then placed the points into Yi Zichen's hands. Keep it to buy what you need. You humans need quite a lot of points to get to the ancestral dragon tribe. Equipment, realms, secret techniques, all of these require a lot of points. You're really... Yi Zichen pursed his lips and shook his head with a smile. Jiang Nan raised her eyebrows and looked at him for a moment. What happened to me? You're making me feel like I'm letting you down by not bringing you out. Yi Zichen shook his head with a wry smile. To tell you the truth, I was actually planning on going out, but what is it? Jiang Nan's expression turned cold. She'd always been very concerned about getting out of prison. When she heard that Yi Zichen had decided to leave, she was naturally anxious. He glanced at his surroundings. The people in the prison were all grinning from ear to ear as they looked at their points. As long as they could get out of the prison, they would be considered as upper-class people in the ancestral dragon clan. When he noticed that they weren't looking, Yi Zichen waved. The two of them walked to a corner. Then Yi Zichen muttered to himself for a while. I'm going to break out of prison. Prison break. Jiangnan wasn't shocked at all. Instead, she frowned slightly and asked, "What plan?" "You're not surprised?" "Why would I be?" "I'm going to break out of prison. That's a crime. If we get out, we might end up on the blacklist," muttered Yi Zichen. "You don't care at all? Can't you humans break out of prison?" To Yi Zichen's surprise, Jiangnan actually asked that question. Why did it sound like the ancestral dragon clan supported prison breaks? "Wait, you guys, can you break out of prison?" Yi Zichen frowned in confusion. "Why not?" Jiangnan shrugged matter-of-factly. "Our ancestral dragon clan has always been like this. If you can break out of prison, that means you're capable. In fact, from the moment you enter the prison, your crimes were already written off. Even if you escape on the same day, no one will care about you. That is, of course, if you can escape. I don't know what your human prisons are like, but breaking out of the ancestral dragon clan isn't that simple. My God, just what kind of deity is your ancestral dragon clan?" Yi Zichen was shocked. Breaking out of prison wasn't even a crime. Half a minute later, he suddenly narrowed his eyes and thought of a possibility. Could it be Wenli was waiting for him to break out of prison? Or could it be said that this was also a trial, and there was some sort of evaluation mechanism? He remembered, from the moment they entered the virtual network, the trial had already begun. Everything that happened after that was a trial. On their way to the ancestral dragon clan, they encountered a total of 2 trials. One of them didn't warn them, while the other one did. Then was it possible that there were many trials that didn't warn them? Although there were no points, they were still within the scope of evaluation. If that was really the case, then entering prison might very well be a type of trial. F***CK. It can't be. Yi Zichen's expression froze, and he couldn't help but sigh. If that was really the case, then this trial was way too random. But for some reason, Yi Zichen actually felt that the possibility was very high. "What is it?" Jiangnan couldn't help but ask when she noticed Yi Zichen's gaze. "Wait a moment." Yi Zichen raised his hand to signal Jiangnan to wait a moment, then decided to personally verify his thoughts. He entered the virtual network. Wenli still didn't give him any information or guidance. He clicked open their chat with a frown. "Wenli Jia, what is it?" Approximately a few minutes later, Wenli sent a message over. "Hurry up and say whatever it is. I'm rather busy right now. I'm preparing to break out of prison." Yi Zichen sent the message. "Oh." This time, Wenli replied within seconds and immediately sent another message. "Do as you say. F***CK. It's actually true." When Yi Zichen saw Wenli's reply, he was able to completely confirm his thoughts. This prison is a trial. Chui Cheng. "Boss, I'm here." Chui Cheng ran over with a flushed face. He was extremely happy right now. Not only did he get a huge amount of points, he even made a name for himself in prison. If it wasn't for Yi Zichen sitting there, he wanted to take out his cell phone and walk around a few times to show off. During this period of time, I'll give you a small mission. Chapter 2929. Octagonal Conference Table. Wenli's chuckle made the people around her look at her subconsciously. Noticing everyone's gaze, Wenli smiled and spoke. "Nothing. Say what you need to say. I'm listening." What made the head of the Virtual World Group laugh? "Why don't you tell us?" The head of the Elixir Guild said, with a friendly expression. "Nothing much. The Milky Way Lord is preparing to escape." Wenli did not hide anything and shrugged. "I thought he would have to wait for a while before thinking about escaping." "Not bad. He didn't expect me to rescue him. It's not easy to escape from the ancestral dragon clan, right?" The head of the Elixir Guild said. "Nothing is easy in that place." Wenli shrugged casually. "Everyone here has been there before. It's hard enough to survive there. Of course it's hard to escape. Aren't you going to help? How can I help? Am I supposed to send a clone over to take care of her? Wenli pouted. Our virtual world group doesn't nurture newcomers like you guys. We advocate self-reliance and rely on our own abilities. We always want to be taken care of, and when can we take charge? Here, I have to mention that Her Highness from the Weapon Alliance. She even slaughtered her colleagues. Isn't that because you guys spoiled her? Wenli, I didn't say anything, did I? The head of the Weapon Alliance muttered. During this period of time, because their Highness killed the Mercenary Alliance's Highness, he had maintained a state of silence in the octagonal table. He tried to speak as little as possible. He did not grow to the point where he could still mention that matter after doing so much. I didn't mean anything by it. I just said it casually. Don't mind it too much. Wenli smiled and waved her hand. The head of the Weapon Alliance could only bear with it silently. He had no choice. Who asked his men to do something wrong? Not only could he not lift his head in the octagonal table, he also had to compensate the Mercenary Alliance with a large amount of resources. Most importantly, he still had to go to the River of Time. Reverse time. Revive the Mercenary Alliance's Highness. All right, let's not talk about this. Were you guys at just now? I remember talking about the heaven-stealing mercenary group, right? You guys continue. I'll just listen. Wenli waved her hand and motioned for the people on the table to continue. She, on the other hand, was sitting on the chair with her eyes closed, hugging her legs. Amazing. Yi Zichen didn't expect his random thoughts to actually be true. If this was considered a trial, in that case, he would probably be able to figure out the ancestral dragon clan's plan. To put it bluntly, it was a kind of test. Coming to the ancestral dragon tribe to learn was indeed part of the reason, but the main reason was to put all the highnesses together to test their individual abilities. For example, their ability to solve problems independently when faced with difficulties, their ability to react spontaneously, and many other aspects. If that was the case, in this trial, there should be evaluators or something like that. He must have been observing the condition and performance of the various highnesses, Her Holiness, and even all the people who came to participate in the trial. Moreover, there should be more than one reviewer. If there was only one evaluator, he wouldn't be able to take care of so many clearers. In any case, he had more or less figured out the routine here. That way, Yi Zichen would be able to do what he wanted to do without any worries. First, he had to break out of prison. Once he got out, he wouldn't have to worry about anything. He could just set a trap for anyone he didn't like. In any case, this was also a kind of trial. It should be acceptable for Her Holiness and Highnesses to compete with each other and create trouble and traps for each other. However, there was one thing that Yi Zichen cared about: killing a colleague. Does this also belong to the scope of recognition? Yi Zichen thought about it for a while, then decided to ignore it. This wasn't something he should care about anyway. All he had to do was face the trial in front of him. In the following days, Yi Zichen stayed in prison very peacefully. He didn't choose to walk around, instead choosing to stay inside. On the other hand, Cui Cheng walked around quite frequently. This was Yi Zichen's idea. He wanted Cui Cheng to attract enough attention from the outside, then have Haozi and a few sharp-eyed subordinates follow him. He wanted them to investigate the situation. From a number of prison guards watching Cui Cheng to the number of prison guards walking around the special unit, the time of their shifts, and even the number of people walking in their direction, he needed to have a grasp of the approximate number of people at each time. It might sound very troublesome, but sometimes when dealing with a problem, one had to start from these minor details. It was very likely that such a small matter would bring him an unexpected surprise. Why aren't Cui Cheng and the others back yet? Yi Zichen looked at the time and frowned. They already exceeded the time limit by half an hour. Maybe I didn't notice. Jiang Nan massaged Yi Zichen's shoulders, then looked around with a frown, then whispered into his ear. Were you going to escape? Even if the scene was seen by others, they would think that the two of them were whispering to each other. No one would suspect that they were discussing the jailbreak. We still have to wait. Yi Zichen rubbed his nose. According to my calculations, I'll need at least a week to figure out the rules before making any plans. Do you have any specific plans? I do, but it's hard to say right now. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and muttered. Anyway, don't worry, I'll definitely bring you out when the time comes. You can't not bring me. I'll always follow you, Jiangnan muttered expressionlessly. But if we want to break out of prison, it's best if we have our men among the prison guards. Do you want to go out and buy one? No need, I have one. The prison guard, old Huang, was the one Yi Ziqin used when he was preparing to escape. During this period of time, old Huang had indeed been transferred to the special unit. From the looks of it, he was truly prepared to serve Yi Ziqin sincerely. Approximately 10-odd minutes later, Chuiqing walked in with Rat and company from the outside. All of them had smiles on their faces. You still know to come back. However, the moment they entered, Yi Ziqin's cold voice caused the smiles on their faces to freeze. Boss, look at the time. What time is it already? Did you guys forget what time I told you guys to come back normally? Yi Ziqin said coldly. Boss, it's not that we don't want to come back, Rat coughed. The people in the North District won't let us come back. Yu Qixing found a bunch of people from their prison and insisted on sparring with me. Sparring? Did Chuiqing fight? No, I just sparred with him a bit, Rat smiled. Rat grinned. Then, that Yu Qixing told us that she wanted to see you. She said you owed her a favor. Chapter 29:30. At the North District of the prison, Yi Ziqin didn't delay Yu Qixing's invitation for long. Towards this person, he actually wanted to get to know her. She seemed to have already noticed that he was pretending to be Chuiqing. This surprised Yi Ziqin. After all, not even the prison guards were able to see through his disguise. Or rather, even Jiang Nan was unable to see through it. Needless to say, the other prisoners all treated Chuiqing like he was their boss. But this Yu Qixing, how did she notice? It wasn't like they knew each other very well. If they interacted for a long time, she might be able to tell his identity from some small movements. For example, Su Yin and Xia Kiki. They should be able to tell Yi Ziqin's disguise. Yu Qixing, I have to ask her how she noticed. It might even affect my chances of getting out of prison. I'm going to break out of prison. When that happens, I'll definitely have to pretend to be a prison guard and leave. If I can learn some details from Yu Qixing, then the chances of me leaving will be much higher. There is one thing worth mentioning. The former head of the South District, Lion, had come with them. Now, he was under the Special Bureau. Chuiqing and Haozi were in charge of the two districts together, and Lion was their best fighter. This was in order to avoid any unnecessary problems. New prisoners joined the prison every day. Who knew if they would run into some troublemaker who wanted to provoke Chuiqing in order to gain a position? Chuiqing wasn't good at fighting. Yi Ziqin tried it out. In terms of fighting, he couldn't even beat some women in the Special Bureau, so there was no need to mention men. According to what he said, he was a mental worker, so he didn't need to do the rough work himself. His subordinates would take care of it for him. Yi Ziqin had no choice but to convince Lion. He became a filter. No matter what, he was once the head of the Special Bureau. His strength was enough to filter out a lot of provocations. Approximately a few minutes later, they arrived at the North District of the prison. When they arrived, the boss of the North District, Yu Qixing, was already waiting outside. What surprised Yi Ziqin was that the boss of the West District, Guanfeng, was there as well. Welcome, Milky Way Lord. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. Yu Qixing's eyes were filled with a smile. To be honest, this woman was quite an extraordinary person. According to common sense, female bosses were generally the kind of men who were more or less masculine. From their appearance, it could be seen that they were more inclined towards the appearance and behavior of men. Unfortunately, she had the charm of a woman. If one didn't know better, he would think that she was a delicate beauty. However, she was in control of the entire Northern District, one of the 4 leaders of the prison. With her in charge of the North District, even the former East District and South District didn't dare to act rashly. Boss Yuchi, Yi Ziqin cupped his hands with a smile. Yu Qixing smiled sweetly, but her smile was incredibly charming. Yes, let me introduce you to the Milky Way Lord. This is Guanfeng. The boss of the West District said it himself. Yi Ziqin had also noticed the man when he went to the back mountains. He looked like a typical northerner. He was tall and burly with thick eyebrows and big eyes. From his appearance, he gave off a very decent feeling. Even though it wasn't their area's home ground, Yuqi Xing had to find her own presence. Since Yuqi Xing didn't go up to cause trouble, Yi Zichen didn't mind. Well water doesn't interfere with river water. Yi Zichen didn't expect him to show up of his own accord. Boss Guanfeng. Yi Zichen cupped his hands again. I'm not the boss. I just don't have any opponents in my area. So they recognize me as the person in charge. I'm not trying to be some boss, Guanfeng replied coldly. I'm here for no other reason than to challenge your subordinate, Chui Cheng. I hope a Milky Way Lord will grant my wish. Huh? Chui Cheng, who was standing behind them, was dumbfounded. He gulped and glanced at Yi Zichen from time to time. His heart was filled with panic. He was a paper tiger. One poke, and he'd break. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows, then noticed that Guanfeng's gaze was filled with battle intent as he looked at Chui Cheng. He really did want to challenge him. Our Chui Cheng is no match for Boss Guan, so let's just forget about it. Yi Zichen smiled kindly. Also, Chui Cheng sustained some hidden injuries from last time, so he won't be able to fight for a while. Please forgive him, Boss Guan. I won't take his life. Guanfeng was unwilling to let Yi Zichen off the hook, and the flames of battle burned even brighter in his eyes. He'd been constantly remembering. Every night, he'd mentally rehearsed his chances of winning against Chui Cheng. To his surprise, he didn't even have a 20% chance of winning. His favorite thing to do was fight against experts. Now that he'd run into someone he only had a 20% chance of winning against, he naturally wanted to spar with them. That way, he could see just where he was lacking. He could improve himself. That was how he'd gotten his position as the boss of the Western District. He challenged each other until no one was a match for him. So he naturally became the person in charge of this area. TCH. It seemed this guy was a martial arts fanatic. Yi Zichen licked his lips and hesitated. Must we fight? Of course. How about this? Let's spar for a bit. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled. Don't overdo it. If you can beat me, then you can spar with Chui Cheng. You. Guanfeng's gaze was filled with disdain. He was just that sort of person. He didn't think Yi Zichen was any sort of expert, so he naturally didn't pay much attention to him. What about me? You want to try? Come. Guanfeng took 2 steps back and reached out his hand. Yi Zichen also twisted his neck and acted as if he was eager to try. I'm going up. Come, I'll even use both hands. Guanfeng shrugged nonchalantly. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and patted Guanfeng's body. Guanfeng snorted in disdain at the soft, powerless hand. Here. Guanfeng shrugged, then grabbed Yi Zichen's shoulder with his hand like a tiger's claw. Again? I lost. All hail Boss Guan. Yi Zichen hurriedly slapped Guanfeng's hand away. Guanfeng twitched his mouth. Your body is too weak. How did you become the human race's majesty? You're so weak. I became the human race's majesty through my brain. Yi Zichen smiled coyly. Then he turned to Chui Cheng and said softly, Boss Guanfeng wants to challenge you. If Boss Guanfeng wants to challenge you, then go ahead and try. Chapter 29:31. Chui Cheng was dumbfounded once more. When he saw the Milky Way Lord make a move, he let out a long sigh of relief. He thought to himself that he was finally saved. Who would have thought? Boss actually lost. What the hell was this? Boss had pretended to be Guanfeng and slaughtered his way through the prison. How'd he end it with just one slap? Then, if Boss couldn't beat him, how was he supposed to? Boss, you really wanted to fight Boss Guanfeng? Chui Cheng asked subconsciously. It's just a sparring match. Don't overdo it. Yi Zichen smiled and nodded. Yi Zichen nodded with a chuckle. Since Boss Guan is giving me face, then don't reject him. It's just a sparring match, but I have to warn you. Don't go overboard. If you hurt Boss Guan, I'll be held accountable for you. Eh? Chui Cheng's mind was filled with question marks. He hurt Guanfeng? It was already good enough that he hadn't been beaten to death. Did the Milky Way Lord take the wrong medicine? Or did Jiang and torment him too late last night? His mental state wasn't particularly good. Did he think Chui Cheng was the Guanfeng he pretended to be? What are you spacing out for? Go up. Yi Zichen couldn't help but frown when he saw Chui Cheng's terrified expression. What's there to be afraid of? He was the best fighter in the entire prison. He couldn't afford to be afraid of anyone's challenge. With so many people watching, if he backed down, he'd definitely arouse suspicion. Yi Zichen didn't want anything to go wrong with his plan. Hurry up and go up. If you ruin my plans, you won't live past tonight. A cold voice rang out in Chui Cheng's mind. He almost instantly glared at Yi Zichen. He saw. It was a pair of eyes that were so cold that not the slightest hint of emotion could be seen. Gulp. Chui Cheng couldn't help but gulp. He took 2 steps forward. Guanfeng had been waiting for this moment for far too long. He'd been waiting for this moment for far too long. Boss Guan, go easy on me. I should be the one saying that to you. Guanfeng grinned. Don't be so humble. Fight as you should. Don't worry about me. And don't be afraid of what the Milky Way Lord said. If you injure me, it's on me. I won't give you any trouble. The Milky Way Lord won't either. I said it. No cough. Seeing that Chui Cheng was about to retort again, Yi Zichen frowned and coughed. Hearing this cough, Chui Cheng quickly lowered his head. Excuse me, Boss Guanfeng. During this period, Yu Qixing had been watching all of this with the attitude of a spectator. She knew very well in her heart the current Milky Way Lord was the Chui Cheng from back then. This Chui Cheng might be real, but he was definitely not the Chui Cheng from back then. She thought that the Milky Way Lord would teach Guanfeng a lesson. Unexpectedly, he actually admitted defeat. He even let Chui Cheng fight him. She didn't dare say anything else, but there were less than 5 people in this prison who could exchange blows with Guanfeng. As for winning against him, not even the Baldy from the East District. She didn't know much about Brother Jia at Southside. She didn't have much contact with him, so she couldn't make a clear judgment. This Chui Cheng, could it be that he was actually master? It didn't look like it. Very quickly, Yu Qixing denied her thoughts. Just from the timidity that Chui Cheng displayed just now, it didn't seem like the integrity that an expert should have. Then, what on earth was the Milky Way Lord planning? Was he going to defeat Chui Cheng and take over Guanfeng's position and identity? That didn't seem to benefit him at all, no matter what his intentions were. She just had to wait and see. She wanted to see for herself what exactly the Milky Way Lord was planning. The 2 sides faced off. This time, Guanfeng wasn't as relaxed as he'd been when he faced Chui Cheng. His emotions were strained. He knew very well that Chui Cheng was a troublesome opponent. Furthermore, from his gait, it was obvious that he was a martial artist. On the other hand, Chui Cheng, his gait was disorderly, full of openings from head to toe. It felt like he could finish him off with a single punch. However, Guanfeng couldn't think that way. He'd seen Chui Cheng's strength with his own eyes. If he did this, it was a trap. That had to be it. Many experts like to use this sort of casual method to mislead their opponents into thinking they had a lot of openings. That way, their opponents would lower their guard and win easily. This Chui Cheng was obviously like that. In that case, a simple test shouldn't be a problem. Then, he saw Guanfeng's gait change back and forth. Chui Cheng was so nervous he was about to explode. His eyes followed Guanfeng's ever-changing gait. He really couldn't hold on much longer. His heart was already beating like a drum. Gulp. Chui Cheng couldn't help but gulp. He didn't dare attack first. He had that kind of strength. When he saw that Chui Cheng hadn't made a move yet, Guanfeng approved of his earlier assumption even more. He was absolutely right. This Chui Cheng was a peak expert. Battles between experts had always depended on who could keep their composure. Whoever made the first move had already lost half the battle. Just now, he'd already used many threatening gaits in an attempt to force Chui Cheng to respond. However, Chui Cheng didn't even move. That meant his threatening gait had no effect on Chui Cheng at all. What a confident person, Guanfeng muttered to himself. He, too, viewed Chui Cheng as a powerful enemy, someone with this kind of confidence. It wasn't surprising that he'd managed to take over the eastern and southern regions. But he couldn't hold it in any longer. He decided to test Chui Cheng one last time. If Chui Cheng still didn't react, then even if he knew he was going to lose, he still had to test the difference between them. Then, he suddenly took 2 steps forward. He reached out with his right fist in a testing manner. Chui Cheng subconsciously opened his eyes wide and tried to cover his face with his arms. But something unexpected happened. Guanfeng, who was about to punch, was suddenly sent flying. He fell to the ground and clutched his chest, his eyes filled with disbelief. How did he lose? He didn't see anything at all. What are you doing? Yi Zichen immediately scolded him. Didn't I tell you to stop sparring? How could you use quick fists on Boss Guanfeng? Your quick fists are for killing enemies, not for this. Then, Yi Zichen quickly walked over to Guanfeng with a frown. Guan Laoda, are you alright? I'll definitely teach Chui Cheng a lesson when I get back. I told him it was just a sparring session, but he still used quick fists. Are you alright? Quick fist? Guanfeng blanked out for a moment, then understood. No wonder I didn't see it clearly. Quick fists. I lost. Guanfeng gestured for Yi Zichen not to blame Chui Cheng, then stood up with his hand on his chest and grabbed Chui Cheng's wrist. Sir truly is a master. Speed is the only thing unbeatable in the world of martial arts. I've learned my lesson. I lost this time. If possible, I would like to ask you to accept me as your disciple and teach me your fist techniques. I will definitely treat you as my father. Please accept me as your disciple first. Chapter 29:32. As expected, Old Chung was dumbfounded once more. His expression wasn't much different from when Yi Zichen told him to fight Guanfeng. His mind was filled with question marks. What's going on now? He didn't do anything. He didn't even use his fist. He simply raised his hand out of fear. After that, Guanfeng was sent flying. Bossing, he told him not to use his fists recklessly. Why the hell would I use my fists? Old Cheng's eyes were instantly filled with shock. I understand. Boss did all of this. He looked at Yi Zichen gratefully. I knew it. Boss is a great person. He definitely wouldn't let me die. So Boss had already arranged everything. He had actually hesitated in his heart. Damn it. I have to trust Boss unconditionally from now on. What he didn't know was that Yi Zichen had done all of this. He was in a critical moment. The entire prison was focused on Chui Cheng. Yet, he was still labeled as a useless person. He was just lucky to have taken Chui Cheng as his subordinate. If he had won against Chui Cheng, then even if it was just a sparring match, people would still notice him. No matter what, Guanfeng was the boss of the Western District. Winning against him was the same as winning against the entire Western District. How could someone like that be mediocre? If that's the case, then everything I've done before might be overturned. I might even be exposed about Chui Cheng. If that's the case, then everything Yi Zichen did before would have been for nothing. He had to think about the worst-case scenario. That was the only way to prevent accidents from happening. Thus, when Yi Zichen pretended to fight Guanfeng, he had actually left a mark on Guanfeng's chest. When Chui Cheng attacked, all he had to do was activate that mark. Guanfeng would suffer a huge impact and lose the ability to continue fighting. Of course, it didn't matter if he didn't accept it. The mark in his heart wouldn't disappear even after several hours. If he still didn't accept it, then he could activate it again. That way, Chui Cheng's disguise would remain intact. Yi Zichen's incompetence would still remain unsuspected. Two birds with one stone. Very good. Mr. Chui, just how did you do that? Guanfeng, who was still in the dark, was filled with admiration for Chui Cheng. It was too fast. Before he could see what had happened, he felt as if his chest had been punched heavily. In fact, he didn't even know if he was punched. If the Milky Way Lord said it was a quick punch, then it must have been a punch. Guanfeng didn't dare say anything else, but there were probably less than 100 people in the entire Ancestral Dragon clan who could pull off that punch. And this was him saying too much. Chui Cheng remained silent. Actually, he didn't know how to explain. This matter had nothing to do with him in the first place. It was the Galactic Lord's doing. He thought it best not to speak. The Galactic Lord would take care of it for him. Who would have thought? The Lord of the Galaxy didn't say anything, but Guanfeng nodded in understanding. I understand now. I was too rude. Mr. Chui's punch is definitely quite mysterious. I shouldn't have asked you so rashly. Please don't hold a grudge. I'm really just a little too excited and couldn't hold it in for a moment. Sir, please accept me as your disciple. Guanfeng knelt on the ground and wailed loudly. The Western region experts who'd come with him couldn't help but want to facepalm. This was too embarrassing. The leader of a group actually knelt in front of a hired thug. Although Chui Cheng's strength was indeed ridiculously strong, they didn't understand how he managed to do that punch. But didn't Guan Feng's kneel make the entire western region seem shorter? Boss Guan, you should get up first. Seeing this, Yi Zichen smiled wryly. Guan Feng shook his head. Don't worry about me. If Mr. Chui doesn't accept me, I'll kneel forever. Also, Milky Way Lord, don't say I didn't warn you. You absolutely can't blame Mr. Chui, okay? That punch helped me a lot. It was a good punch. Everyone was speechless. Chui Cheng, who'd been grabbed by the leg, looked towards Yi Zichen nervously. He wanted to ask for help. Guan Feng, I told you to get up. Suddenly, Yi Zichen's gaze turned cold. Who the hell do you think you are? Why should I listen to you? Guan Feng's expression was filled with impatience. He was a brute. He only submitted to whoever's fist was harder. In his eyes, Yi Zichen was just a salted fish. He couldn't be bothered to give him any face, even if he was His Majesty of the human race. I don't count as a boss, but if you continue to disrespect me, then Chui Cheng will never accept you. Yi Zichen smiled. Guan Feng, who was kneeling on the ground, couldn't help but be stunned. What does it have to do with me, whether Chui Cheng accepts me or not? Oh yeah, I nearly forgot. The Milky Way Lord is Chui Cheng's leader. Milky Way Lord, my apologies. Guan Feng hurriedly stood up and cupped his hands with a smile. Milky Way Lord, I didn't mean anything by it just now. Don't think too much into it. I won't. Yi Zichen smiled. Ahem. Milky Way Lord, Mr. Chui listens to you a lot, right? Guan Feng muttered. Yi Zichen shrugged, then glanced at Chui Cheng. Chui Cheng instantly understood. I swear my loyalty to Milky Way Boss. I'll do whatever Milky Way Boss tells me to do. Chui Cheng said seriously. Guan Feng's eyebrows furrowed when he heard this. Milky Way Lord? What is it? Come here for a moment. Guan Feng waved him over. Yi Zichen couldn't help but smile, then follow him. What instructions do you have for me, Boss Guan? Instructions? You're treating me like an outsider. Guan Feng's face was plastered with flattery as he took out a point stone from his pocket. 140 billion. Your Excellency. Milky Way Lord, you humans have a high demand for points, right? Guan Feng grinned. Don't say that's not the case. I actually know a little bit about you humans. You came here to study. You use points to buy some things you need in the human universe. Am I right? You can say that. Yi Zichen nodded non-committally. When Guan Feng heard that, he smiled. My points. They're not a lot, but they're not a lot either. I'll give you 100 billion. And then, Yi Zichen laughed. Tell Mr. Chui to accept me as his disciple. Guan Feng grinned. From now on, you'll be in charge of the Western District as well. How about that? I don't want anything. I just want Mr. Chui to accept me as his disciple. Chapter 29:33. To tell the truth, 100 billion points. Yi Zichen was truly moved. Guan Feng really was a martial arts fanatic. He was willing to pay 100 billion just to become Yi Zichen's disciple. What an astounding and exaggerated figure. Guan Feng, are you really that obsessed with the martial Tao? Yi Zichen couldn't help but mutter. With so many points, there's nothing you can't do outside. Also, you know what it's like to form the dragon race. Once you go outside, points are the deciding factor. No matter how thoroughly you study the martial Tao, it's useless. You're an amateur, aren't you? To Yi Zichen's surprise, Guan Feng laughed and shook his head. It's not as simple as you think. If points really are the deciding factor in this world, why are there so many experts? Have you ever thought about it? Yi Zichen's interest was piqued. He nodded slightly. I'd like to hear the details. Once you reach 1 billion points, you'll have the ability to burn points and bring both sides to the same level. Did you know that? Guan Feng murmured softly. I did. That's where the advantage of martial arts comes into play. Of course, there are other pay-to-win skills, but your martial arts ability is high, so you'll have a higher chance of winning in a duel. Also, the exploration zone's accumulated points have no effect. Guan Feng asked in a low voice, Did you pass by the exploration zone on your way here? The desert zone? That's right. For you humans, that's the accumulation zone. You need points to enter, replied Guan Feng. Guan Feng answered, The points you earn there aren't counted. It's all based on your own strength. When you came here, you were supposed to bring guards, right? Haven't you found it strange that guards are useless here? Guanfeng shrugged. I do think so. Yi Zichen was rather puzzled. In a world where points were the deciding factor, why did they need to bring guards? Even if they did, they'd be useless. Now that Guanfeng mentioned it, guards were actually for the accumulation zone, which meant that once they entered the academy, they might be sent to the accumulation zone for trials. Or perhaps guards were used to fight for supremacy in the accumulation zone. If that was the case, didn't that mean all the highnesses who'd come to participate in the trials were for nothing? It didn't matter how talented they were. It didn't matter what trump cards they had. Even if Yi Zichen summoned his 5 elemental spirits, he still wouldn't be a match for the Duke. This was the suppression of the universe's strength. Realm suppression. It was not something that could be broken through just because one wanted to. You might be able to challenge someone of a higher rank than you, but if an admiral could challenge a duke, that would be ridiculous. I see. Yi Zichen pursed his lips and nodded, while Guanfeng grinned. I've told you enough. For the sake of my careful explanation to you, can you help me and Mr. Chui get in touch? 100 billion points is not a small amount. Indeed, quite a lot. To be honest, Yi Zichen had never felt like the points were few. Instead, he was worried about these points. He wanted it. 100 billion points were enough to buy a venerable with a 20% success rate. It was impossible for him not to be tempted. But Chui Cheng was fake. Guanfeng was a martial arts fanatic, and if Chui Cheng really became his teacher, he might not notice it in the short term, but he would definitely notice it sooner or later. You really want to learn martial arts? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. I want to make myself stronger. Guanfeng's eyes burned with passion. Guanfeng's eyes were burning with passion. I'm willing to do anything to increase my strength. Then, can you keep a secret? Guanfeng couldn't help but be stunned. Secret? What secret? What do you mean? Guanfeng was confused. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh. If you can promise not to tell anyone, I can help you. My lips are sealed. I won't tell anyone about Mr. Chui's abilities. Guanfeng thought Yi Zichen was worried that Chui Cheng's abilities would be leaked, so he hurriedly replied. At the same time, his impression of Yi Zichen improved considerably. Although he was a leader, he was very considerate of his subordinates. Give me your points. I'll take you in. Yi Zichen muttered. Huh? Guanfeng was stunned. I'm using 100 billion to become Mr. Chui's disciple. What are you doing here? What are you yapping about? I'll tell you the truth. I think you can keep your mouth shut. Yi Zichen pondered for a moment. But you can't tell anyone you know. If you dare, I'll kill you. All of a sudden, a gust of cold wind blew towards Guanfeng. Guanfeng felt the killing intent. Guanfeng subconsciously glanced at Yi Zichen with shock in his eyes. That sort of killing intent was definitely not something a normal person could release. The Milky Way Lord was an expert. Chui Cheng is fake. I push him out. I was the one fighting the South and East districts. I was also the one who punched you in the chest. Yi Zichen looked down. If you want to take someone as your master, then come and take me as your disciple. You gave me a lot of points, so I don't want to screw you over. It's you? You don't believe me? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and placed his hand on Guanfeng's shoulder. Not even half a second later, Guanfeng looked up in shock. Do you think His Majesty the human race is just for show? Do you really think I became His Majesty the human race for nothing? Yi Zichen knit his brows. All right, I've told you everything I need to. Give me your points. Also, it's too late for regrets. The moment I decided to tell you, you had 2 choices. Shut up or die. It might be a bit overbearing and unfair, but unfortunately, I've never liked to talk about fairness. Master, Guanfeng muttered to himself for a moment, then cupped his hands and bowed to Yi Zichen. It couldn't be fake. Just now, the instant Yi Zichen touched his shoulder, he'd sensed that this Milky Way Lord was definitely a hidden, peerless expert. No wonder he'd been puzzled earlier. Chui Cheng really had been full of flaws from start to finish. He'd actually thought Chui Cheng was an expert. He'd really been blind. When he thought back to how he'd thought Chui Cheng was an expert and knelt before him, he felt utterly humiliated. Too humiliating. No need to call me master. If you want to learn, I can teach you a few body tempering techniques. If you learn them, you'll be able to raise your current strength by at least 30%, said Yi Zichen quietly. From now on, Chui Cheng is your master. You need to act like this when you're outside. I need to maintain my current identity. I have my own plans. If you ruin them, I'll still kill you. Yes, master. I definitely won't expose myself. Master. Yi Zichen frowned. Milky Way Lord, said Guan Feng respectfully. Yi Zichen nodded slightly. Give me your points, then go find Chui Cheng and thank you for your points. I really do need them. Otherwise, I really can't be bothered to accept you. Chapter 29:34. Originally, Yi Zichen had some concerns. Would someone like Guan Feng, who only knew how to practice martial arts, expose him? What surprised him was that Guan Feng did very well. When he left with Chui Cheng, his eyes were filled with respect and admiration towards Chui Cheng, and he begged Chui Cheng to accept him as his disciple. Under Yi Zichen's orders, Chui Cheng agreed. At that moment, the boss of the West District, Guan Feng, was also taken under Yi Zichen's wing. Pretty much all of the East, South, and West districts of the prison were now under Yi Zichen's control. Yi Zichen felt like they were actually a type of resource. He couldn't just view them as a place to earn points. They should have other uses. As for how to use them, that would require him to slowly discover. At any rate, Guan Feng was standing respectfully behind Chui Cheng right now, which made Chui Cheng feel a little nervous. Who was he? Salted fish. Guan Feng was the true leader of the 3rd district. How could Yi Zichen not be afraid when Guan Feng was his lackey? He was worried what would happen to him if Guan Feng suddenly punched him in the back. Guan Feng, who had become Chui Cheng's disciple, he was also extremely friendly towards Yi Zichen. That wasn't really anything to worry about. Yi Zichen had already made it very clear, and Chui Cheng's answer was very honest. He would definitely listen to Yi Zichen's arrangements. Thus, it was only natural that Guan Feng would treat Yi Zichen with respect after becoming Chui Cheng's disciple. But I can't be too respectful. Yi Zichen felt like he needed to explain this to Guan Feng in detail when he had time. No matter what, in Guan Feng's eyes, Yi Zichen should still be a useless salted fish. He only respected Yi Zichen a bit for Chui Cheng's sake. But he definitely couldn't be like a master-disciple relationship. It would be very easy for others to suspect him. However, he couldn't say that now. Yuqi Xing was waiting for him. Boss Yuqi, sorry for wasting your time. Yi Zichen raised his hand with a smile. Yuqi Xing shook her head with a chuckle, then glanced at Yi Zichen's body. No worries. What's more, I witnessed Mr. Chui's strength with my own eyes. Now, Boss Guan Feng has also joined the Milky Way Lord. It seems like Milky Way Lord has the final say in this prison. Boss Yuqi is too serious. Yi Zichen hurriedly shook his head. I've never thought about going to the unified prison. What's more, the prison guards are the ancestral dragons. What does that have to do with me? At most, I'm just making the various areas of the prison more integrated. Then, should our northern region join as well? Yuqi Xing chuckled. It depends on what you mean. If Boss Yuqi feels like it's better to join, then join. If you feel like it's better to maintain it, then continue to control yourself. Don't worry, Boss Yuqi, I definitely don't have any ambitions. What kind of person I am, the people in the prison more or less understand. Even if the Northern District doesn't join us, I won't send people to cause trouble for you. I prefer peace to conflict. What a surprise. Yuqi Xing seemed to be surprised by Yi Zichen's peaceful words. She raised her eyebrows, then pointed towards the stone table beside her. Sit. Boss Yuqi, I won't be sitting, right? Yi Zichen thought for a moment, then smiled. I'm spending points every minute I'm out. I'll feel bad if I waste too much time. Why don't you just say what you want? I like to get straight to the point. The Milky Way Lord sure is meticulous. Yuqi Xing pursed her lips and smiled. Yuqi Xing pursed her lips into a smile and said, You've already obtained so many points in the East and South regions, yet you're still feeling the pinch over the points you're currently losing. It can't be helped. We humans need a lot of points. All right, since the Milky Way Lord mentioned your need for points, I would like to discuss business with you. Yuqi Xing's gaze instantly darkened. Then she looked around. How about we talk in private? There are some things that the Milky Way Lord doesn't want others to know, right? Her words, which were filled with deep meaning. Yi Zichen couldn't help but frown. She's probably referring to my disguise back then. Although the people here are all trusted aides of the various departments, saying it out loud will definitely cause unnecessary trouble. Chui Chung, you guys go somewhere else. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. Yuqi Xing smiled. No need to go too far. How about you walk around in the northern region? Lil, you, take the Milky Way Lord to talk to your sisters. All right. The short-haired woman nodded, then raised her hand towards Chui Chung and company. Mr. Chui, everyone, this way please. Not long later, only Yi Zichen and Yuqi Xing remained. Milky Way Lord, can we sit now? Yuqi Xing pointed at a nearby stone table. Yi Zichen muttered to himself for a moment, then sat down. What does Boss Yuqi want to talk about? A big business deal, murmured Yuqi Xing. Yuqi Xing whispered. This deal is worth at least $1 trillion. If the Milky Way Lords are willing to negotiate, I reckon you'll have a few more overlords and venerables as your subordinates. This kind of power is already considered top-notch in the human race. Oh, Yi Zichen arched his brows. The Milky Way Lord probably knows as well. I know. You were pretending to be Chui Chung, murmured Yuqi Xing. That's right. It was clear from her words that she'd already seen through Yi Zichen's disguise. I came here to ask, how did you know? Is there something wrong with my disguise? Please tell me. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the aura of a Milky Way Lord is just too eye-catching, murmured Yuqi Xing. Yuqi Xing whispered. No matter what a person becomes, the aura and pride in their bones cannot be changed. When I saw you guys, I felt like the Chui Chung you were pretending to be was the Milky Way Lord. Aura, when the Milky Way Lord appeared, although you purposely hid in the back, the aura you released was definitely not as simple as a hired thug. Yuqi Xing shrugged. Also, the fact that the people around you didn't dare to walk beside you proves even more of a respect for your identity. On the other hand, the fake Milky Way Lord walking in front of me looks very ordinary. That's simple? Yes. Yuqi Xing shrugged. Nothing special. I just know that. None of your majesties are simple, so I was sure it was you. You know the human race very well. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. Not really. Yuqi Xing squinted her eyes and smiled. I've been talking to the ancestral dragon clan for a long time, so I should know them better because I've been to the human race before. Chapter 29:35. A member of the ancestral dragon clan went to the human race. To be honest, Yi Zichen wasn't all that surprised. Didn't Zhu Ying of the ancestral dragon clan go to the human race as well? It seems like I'm not so sure. At that time, Zhu Ying was in the virtual network of the human race. As for whether her real body had entered the human race, it was still unknown. From what Yuqi Xing said, it seems like she went to the human race and was a very special existence. Yi Zichen thought back to the ancestral dragon clansmen he met in the past, or rather, the people in the prison. It seems like they don't know much about the human race. When did you go to the human race? Yi Zichen asked out of curiosity. 1,000 years ago, or perhaps even longer than that. Yuqi Xing pondered for a moment, then a nostalgic look appeared on her face. I don't really remember. I just remember living in the human race for about 5 or 6 years. Then I was brought back by the ancestral dragon clan's law enforcement department and have been locked up here ever since. The law enforcement department brought her back and kept her here ever since. In other words, Yuqi Xing has already been locked up here for over 1,000 years. That's way too ridiculous. Why did the law enforcement department arrest you? Yi Zichen was shocked. The ancestral dragon clan isn't allowed to go to the human race. Yuqi Xing shrugged. Don't you know that? The ancestral dragon clan can only live here. As for anything else, don't even think about it. There's something like that. Yi Zichen thought for a moment, then understood. That's right. He'd lived in the human race for so long, but he'd never heard of the ancestral dragon clan, much less seen any other clansman. How did you get out? I followed a little sister who came with you. I don't know if you know her, but she said that she's going to establish a corporation in the human race in the future. Her name is Wenli. Do you know her? Yuqi Xing shrugged. Wenli. Yi Zichen's eyes were instantly filled with terror as he looked at the woman in front of him. You know Big Sister Wenli? Oh, it seems like you're very familiar with her. You're her little brother, so you're also the Nine-Tailed Fox clan? Yuqi Xing raised her eyebrows in surprise. I'm not. Then why did you call her Sister Wenli? A few reasons. Yi Zichen didn't want to say too much. He just felt a bit wary towards Yuqi Xing. The main reason was he felt that this was too much of a coincidence. She just so happened to want to cooperate with him, and the person she mentioned just so happened to be the human race's Wenli, who was also very familiar with Yi Zichen. Look at this problem in a normal way. When Yi Zichen found out that she was friends with Wenli, he should be very shocked, and then trust her greatly. But the more Yi Zichen thought about it, the more he found it strange. Perhaps it was because he had experienced too much that he was used to thinking in reverse when dealing with problems. Looks like I gave a bad example. Yuqi Xing sighed in distress. I can tell from your eyes that you're wary of me. Shouldn't I? Yi Zichen frowned slightly. Just tell me what you want to do. That's just how I am. I'm very alert to everything. All right. After pondering for a while, Yuqi Xing didn't dwell on this matter and muttered in a low voice. What I need you to do is very simple. Take me out. You want to get out of prison too? Yi Zichen frowned. What was going on? Why did it feel like he'd run into an army of prison breakers? They all wanted to get out. No. To his surprise, Yuqi Xing shook her head. I don't want you to take me out. It's just a small prison. I can get out if I want. I'm staying here purely because I think life here is simpler. If I want to get out, this place can't hold me back. Then what do you want? I want you to take me out of the ancestral dragon clan. Damn! Yi Zichen was stunned for a good half a minute when he heard this request. This big sister really dared to dream. Get out of the ancestral dragon clan. She'd been captured by the law enforcement department earlier, yet she wasn't satisfied and wanted to run away. You want to get out of the ancestral dragon clan? Yi Zichen frowned. That's right. Yuqi Xing nodded non-committally. I want to leave the ancestral dragon clan and live with the human race. Actually, what you need to do is very simple. When you leave the ancestral dragon clan's trial, take me with you. Just let me leave on your battleship. You might be interrogated in the meantime, so you can let them in. Just hide me. You make it sound so easy. Yi Zichen smiled wryly. If they come in and interrogate me, how am I supposed to hide you? There's always a place. Yuqi Xing shrugged. Yuqi Xing shrugged nonchalantly. That's how Wenli took me out last time. At that time, she hid me in the energy storage room. You can also hide me there and take me out. In fact, it's quite simple. If it's really that simple, why don't you find someone else? There were plenty of Her Majesties and Her Majesties who'd come here for the trial. If it really was that simple, any one of them could do it. Why did she have to go out of her way to find him? That's why I said we really might be fated to meet. Yuqi Xing shrugged. Yuqi Xing shrugged. Just as I was about to leave the prison, I heard that the human race's majesties had been detained, so I chose to stay and meet you. If you agree, then I won't need to leave the prison and interact with people I don't trust. You trust me. You seem pretty good. I feel like you're someone worth trusting and trusting. I've been observing your subordinates these past few days. They all approve of you, which means that you're worth befriending. Since that's the case, I choose to work with you. Also, you said that Wenli is your big sister, so I naturally believe you, replied Yuqi Xing. You really know my big sister? You can go ask her. Yuqi Xing, does she really know me? Stop pretending. Yi Zichen lowered his gaze. I can contact my big sister right now. If you're lying to me, you'll be exposed. How about you admit it yourself? You can go ask her, said Yuqi Xing. The confidence in her expression made Yi Zichen suspect that what she said might actually be true. But could it be such a coincidence? Yi Zichen pondered for a moment, then nodded towards her with a frown. I'm really going to ask her. Yuqi Xing remained calm. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and entered the virtual network. Sis, do you know Yuqi Xing? Chapter 2936. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2931. Prison Break. Begin preparation. Currently typing. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2937. Red Packet Super Chapter 2932. Martial Arts Tournament. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2938. There's definitely something wrong. Just as the prison guards were eagerly preparing to participate in the martial arts competition and earn points, among the prison guards was a long-haired guard. He had kept his equipment intact the entire time and looked at everything in front of him vigilantly. Actually, he was the one. Yi Zichen had transformed into Ol Huang and left the prison. When Ol Huang returned, Yi Zichen asked the prison guard who had gone to confirm Ol Huang's identity. Carlos. His name was also one of the normal prison guards in the prison. His rank was the lowest in the prison. He was the kind of insignificant prison guard who had just entered the prison. However, he was born with sharp observation skills. This was a talent that belonged to him. When he saw Yi Zichen pretending to be Ol Huang, he instantly suspected Ol Huang's identity. However, when he turned around to look for Yi Zichen had already disappeared from his sight. This time's martial arts competition, he thought that it was a trap. Everything was planned by the Milky Way Lord, and he was definitely planning something even more terrifying and serious. That was indeed the case. As prison guards in the prison, the other prison guards actually chose to give up their uniforms and fight with other prisoners bare-chested. Look at their cheers after getting promoted. It was as if they had already forgotten their responsibilities and were completely immersed in the satisfaction of earning points. This was definitely going to cause a huge problem. Definitely. He wanted to warn his other colleagues, but he could no longer say anything to them. Even if he did, no one would listen to him. Instead, they would say that he was making a mountain out of a molehill. In this sort of situation, he made a choice, which was to go around Yi Zichen and keep an eye on him. He had a certain amount of points on him. According to the prison's internal rules, none of the prisoners could pose any threat to him, and he could control them if they started a riot. However, if it was a large-scale riot, he wouldn't be able to stop it on his own. Thus, he could only keep an eye on Yi Zichen. As long as he could keep an eye on him, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. He actually didn't know whether or not he was right. However, he decided to believe in his sixth sense. All right, Aya, hit him. Yes, hit him. The prisoners in the prison were all shouting. At this time, the martial arts competition had officially begun. Due to the number of people, this time, the competition was divided into many areas, and the selection would be carried out in an elimination fashion. Among them, there were more than a dozen areas where the prison guards were on the field. In prison, it was impossible for a prisoner not to have some thoughts about the guards. Although the prison guards usually treated them well, there would still be some misunderstanding between them. Seeing the prison guards appear, the prisoners rushed forward as if they were on steroids. I lost again. Chui Chung and Haozi were also pounding their fists and stamping their feet. During this time, Yi Zichen sat in his chair, Jiang then stood behind him, and Yuqi Xing sat beside him. Actually, from the beginning to the end, he did not watch the martial arts competition. His mind was not on this matter. During this period, he had been paying attention to the situation of the prison guards. Almost all the prison guards had participated in the competition under Old Huang's instigation. Only Carlos was still fully equipped. Yi Zichen naturally noticed Yi Zichen. Not all of the prison guards in this prison are idiots, Yi Zichen muttered softly. Yuqi Xing glanced in Carlos's direction and met his gaze. Yuqi Xing nodded towards Carlos, then returned her gaze to the competition. Indeed, that person seems to be staring at you. So be it. He can't change the result by himself. Yi Zichen stretched lazily. It would be rather funny if all of our plans were ruined by him, a prison guard. Do you have any preparations outside? Yes. Yi Zichen nodded. Xingjia, I'll leave this place to you. I'm going to talk to that prison guard. Go. Yuqi Xing squinted her eyes and continued to look towards the field. Yi Zichen twisted his neck and stood up from his seat. Everyone was paying attention to the competition this time. Practically no one noticed Yi Zichen and Jiangnan leave. Only Carlos, who had been staring at Yi Zichen, frowned the moment Yi Zichen moved. What surprised him was that Yi Zichen actually headed towards him. Sir, Don't you want to fight? Yi Zichen asked softly with a smile. I'm not good at fighting, Carlos replied. I feel like Sire is very wary of me. Yi Zichen pursed his lips and smiled. I wonder, did I offend Sire in any way? Milky Way Lord, what? No matter what you want to do, don't blame me for not warning you. You can't do anything in this prison. Carlos's gaze was solemn. It doesn't matter if you want to break out of prison or start a riot. Don't think that you can achieve your goal just because the prison guards took off their uniforms. There are over 100 prison guards patrolling the perimeter of this high wall. Is that so? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows in surprise. You better be more obedient. Otherwise, your future days in prison won't be too comfortable. Carlos's words carried a hint of threat. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows and shrugged. To be honest, Sire, is quite unexpected for Sire to be in prison. Are you one of the higher-ups here? I'm not. What a pity. Yi Zichen twitched his mouth and sighed. The ancestral dragon clan really isn't good at choosing people. They actually let a talent like you get buried. So you really are going to do something? That's right. Yi Zichen smiled. To be honest, I'm going to break out of prison. All of a sudden, Jiang Nan, who was standing behind Yi Zichen, opened her eyes wide. Carlos was also frowning. You want to break out of prison? Yeah, I've stayed here long enough. I've given you ancestral dragon clan enough face, so it's time for me to leave. Yi Zichen shrugged with a smile. Yi Zichen shrugged with a chuckle. Actually, I really want to stay here for a while longer. Unfortunately, school has already started, so I should report to my school. I can't waste any more time here with you guys. You can't get out. Is that so? Yi Zichen pursed his lips and nodded. But I want to try. Carlos was speechless. Yi Zichen also touched his eyebrows. Just now you told me I can't do anything, right? Carlos smiled calmly. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows slightly. Then, what do you think you can do? Boom. Just as Yi Zichen said that, a deafening sound suddenly sounded out from the prison gate. Soon after, he saw a huge hole in the prison's gate being blasted open by an iceberg. A tall and slender woman wearing a mask. Every step she took caused a layer of ice to form behind her. Yi Zichen left. Chapter 29:39. The cold wind was bone-chilling. The prison gate was covered in ice. The tall masked woman was like a proud and aloof king of the northern mountains. Behind her, several tens of masked thugs were fighting with the prison guards outside. Carlos was stunned. He simply could not believe that the prison gate could be broken open. How is this possible? The area outside was isolated. Only someone with a level of over 1 trillion could use the ability to control the elements. Could it be a trillion-level person came to break into the prison? Do you see that? What else do you think you can do at a time like this? Yi Zichen muttered softly as he looked at Carlos, whose eyes were filled with terror. Just who is the one who can't do anything at this moment, it was already the best proof of that. Can't do anything at all? Carlos's gaze turned cold as he looked at the scene in front of him. He grabbed Yi Zichen's shoulder, took out a pair of handcuffs from somewhere, and cuffed them onto Yi Zichen's wrists. At least I can catch you. Is that so? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled. He snapped his fingers, causing the handcuffs to break into pieces and fall off his wrists. Carlos looked at the broken handcuffs. He froze on the spot. They were scared. Be it the prison guards or the prisoners, they were all intimidated by the Milky Way Lord. In the hearts of the prison guards, the Milky Way Lord wasn't worth mentioning. He was a person without any abilities, so nobody took him seriously. So much so that when they chose to take off their uniforms, nobody hesitated. They didn't believe that the Milky Way Lord had any plans, and simply thought that it was the Milky Way Lord flattering them. The Milky Way Lord wasn't what they thought he was. He was mediocre and useless. Everything he did was purely for the sake of reducing his presence in the prison, so that the people in the prison would focus on someone else, so that everyone would look down on him. Then he could carry out his plans in secret. For example, breaking out of the prison. I sympathize with you. If you were the person in charge of this prison, I might not be able to leave. Unfortunately, you aren't. You can't do anything right now either. Yi Zichen patted Carlos's shoulder, then shouted towards the dueling ring. The gate is broken. We're free. Run. In short, it was as if the prisoners who were competing in martial arts had been injected with a stimulant. They all ran madly towards the prison gate. At this time, even if the prison guards wanted to maintain order, they couldn't do it. They wouldn't be able to wear their uniforms or badges for a while. In this state, they were no different from the prisoners in prison. Prison riot. Countless prisoners ran outside, but some of them chose to stay where they were. Those that did not move, they all wanted to stay here of their own volition. Some wanted to hide from their enemies, while others wanted to be like Yuchi Xing and enjoy the peace here. Sister Xing, I'm leaving. Hurry up and leave. Don't forget to tell me when you leave the ancestral dragon clan. Otherwise, I will complain to Wen Li. A smile lingered in Yuchi Xing's eyes. I will. When Yuchi Xing said that she knew Wen Li, Yi Zichen did not believe it at first. In order to verify, he did contact Wen Li. The result was, save her. Those two simple words were enough to prove Yuchi Xing's identity. She really didn't know Wen Li. What's more, their relationship seemed to be extraordinary. Here are 3 trillion points. Take them and use them. Yuchi Xing took out a point crystal and placed it in Yi Zichen's palm. I hope that when we meet again, you'll have already become an indomitable existence. 3 trillion. When she heard that number, even Jiangnan revealed a look of terror. A trillion. The person in charge of the North District was actually a trillion. How could someone of that level be willing to live in a prison? If she didn't want to, no one could capture her. Could it be that she came here of her own free will? Beifeng, are you coming with me? Of course. Although Beifeng didn't understand the current situation very well, if Yi Zichen chose to leave, he would definitely follow. Otherwise, who would teach him martial arts? What are you doing? The tall woman in front of the prison gate urged him anxiously. Hurry up. Their reinforcements are coming. As she spoke, she gathered several icicles in her palm and nailed the incoming guards to the wall or ground. Let's go. Yi Zichen nodded at Yuchi Xing, glanced down at Jiangnan, then walked towards the prison gates. During this time, the prison guards had already put on their clothes and were about to capture the prisoners who wanted to escape. Quite a few of them chose to charge towards Yi Zichen and the others, including OL Huang. However, it was a pity. Anyone who tried to get close to Yi Zichen was sent flying by an invisible force. By the time they tried to charge up, a bone-chilling cold had already sealed them in ice, preventing them from moving. Ice sculptures solidified in the courtyard of the prison. Carlos watched this scene silently, not moving an inch. He knew very well. He'd already explained it. From a moment the prison gates were destroyed, Yi Zichen's plan had succeeded. Those prisoners weren't accomplices. They didn't even know about Yi Zichen's plan. All they knew was that the moment the door was broken, they'd have a chance to see the light again, and they'd become accomplices in the Milky Way Lord's escape. Or, more accurately, they'd help him. Really? Why are you so slow? The points I'm burning are decreasing at a ridiculous rate. I'm here because my younger sister and the others gathered all the points for me. When the masked man saw Yi Zichen, he scolded him. Hey, it's just a few points. When we get back, I'll give each of you a few 100 billion, said Yi Zichen with a shrug. The masked man was stunned. A few 100 billion? What have you been doing in this prison? This is all thanks to Zhu Ying, Yi Zichen grinned. She wants to capture me so much, but it's a pity that she's only used me as a stepping stone time and time again. I really have to thank her in person once I get out. All right, stop talking nonsense. What are these 2 people doing? They're going with us. Yi Zichen glanced at Guanfeng and Jiangnan. I'll explain once we get out of here. Let's go first. We've wasted enough time. The Ancestral Dragon Clan will definitely send someone over. You still know. The person under the mask sneered coldly. Soon after, he raised his hand and said to the other masked men, Retreat. Chapter 2940. 10 minutes later, in the sky above the prison, thousands of workers in security uniforms were standing on a giant flying sword. When the flying sword landed on the ground outside the prison gate, all the prison guards stood at the gate with their hands behind their backs. He escaped. The one walking in front was a handsome young man. He squinted at the destroyed gate of the prison and whispered softly, Yes. The prison warden gulped and nodded slightly. Who rescued him? The handsome young man maintained his cold tone. causing the prison warden to tremble uncontrollably. That's subordinate. All right, stop talking. The handsome young man squinted his eyes and waved at the people behind him. Immediately, two young men wielding laser swords walked over. One of them stabbed the warden's chest, while the other chopped off his head. The bloody head fell to the ground. The prison guards standing outside the gate kept quiet out of fear, not daring to breathe loudly. As the prison warden, he wasn't in the prison at the first instance. Instead, he came here after the incident. Even if we interrogated him, he couldn't say anything. Dereliction of duty. Such a warden doesn't need to live anymore. The handsome young man muttered softly and looked at the prison guards in front of him. Who's Carlos? It's me. Carlos, who was standing in the corner, walked over. Seeing the prison warden die in front of him, Carlos felt some fear in his heart. He kept his head lowered, not daring to raise it. Raise your head. The handsome young man muttered softly. Carlos swallowed hard and raised his head. From his eyes, one could tell that he was still very afraid. You were the one who contacted the headquarters. Yes. Explain the situation. It's like this. Carlos pondered for a moment, pursed his lips, and said softly, the person who took the Milky Way Lord away is an expert in using ice. Ice, yes. He used elemental energy in the ancestral dragon city. The handsome young man lowered his eyes and said softly, are you trying to say that there are trillions of people? This subordinate can't confirm. Carlos muttered, can't confirm? You can't confirm that the other party used elemental energy or something? I can't confirm if the other party is at the trillion level. State your reason. From the beginning to the end, the handsome young man's tone did not fluctuate or change at all. Carlos exhaled deeply and replied, just now, when I was capturing the Milky Way Lord, when I was sure that he wasn't at the level of a trillion, he used a mysterious power to destroy my handcuffs. I can no longer completely trust the internal rules of the ancestral dragon clan. So, the handsome young man nodded. The laws of the ancestral dragon clan have been fluctuating during this period of time. Your suspicions are not wrong. Describe the person who used ice in detail. Tall and slender, with a perfect body, Carlos muttered with a frown. She's a woman. She should be someone who has been in a high position for a long time. She has an aura that ordinary people can't have. At that time, he was wearing a mask, so I couldn't see his face. His fingers were very long, and his temperament was somewhat cold. Your description? The handsome young man narrowed his eyes and muttered softly. Even if you can't find 1,000 of them in the ancestral dragon clan, you can at least find 800 of them. What kind of mask is she wearing? Black mask. Is it a mask from our ancestral dragon clan? Doesn't look like it. I need to ask you again. Is it a mask from our ancestral dragon clan? Answer yes or no. The handsome young man threatened. No. All right. The handsome young man nodded slightly. You need to take full responsibility for what you said just now. Yes. Carlos nodded. Did you contact the headquarters immediately? No. Carlos shook his head. I contacted the warden at the first instance and asked him to contact the headquarters. But the warden didn't believe what I said. In the end, I was reckless and definitely contacted the headquarters. The handsome young man muttered to himself for a while before muttering softly. How did you confirm that he wanted to break out of the prison? I didn't know that he wanted to break out of the prison at first. Carlos answered truthfully. I simply felt that the Galactic Lord's behavior was very strange. Moreover, the prison guard in the prison had also let down their guard. This kind of laxity made me uneasy, so I was a little wary of the Galactic Lord. When he personally told me that he wanted to break out of the prison, I then used our internal communication device to send a distress signal to the headquarters. Did all of you take off your uniforms? When the handsome young man asked this question, everyone could not help but swallow their saliva. Who instigated it? Immediately after, the handsome young man asked again. Everyone subconsciously looked at Old Huang. Carlos pursed his lips and said, no one instigated it. No one instigated it. Does that mean these people are neglecting their duties? The handsome young man frowned. We fell into the Galactic Lord's trap. As soon as he finished speaking, Carlos told the handsome young man everything that happened after the Galactic Lord entered the prison until he broke out of the prison. Huh, this Galactic Lord is interesting. The handsome young man twisted his neck and nodded slightly at Carlos. What rank are you in the prison? I'm an ordinary police officer. From now on, you are the warden of this prison. Just as the handsome young man finished speaking, Carlos's eyes widened. Warden? He was promoted to the position of warden. I don't want to see. In the future, if anyone leaves the prison without our release order, how many prisoners escape this time? The handsome young man asked with a frown. About 2,000, Carlos muttered. This mistake will be shouldered by your previous warden. Next time, no one will be able to get away with it. This time, I'll let it go. Everyone will be fined 3 months' salary. Find someone to fix the prison door as soon as possible. As soon as he finished speaking, the handsome young man walked straight to First Lieutenant Yuxing. You did it, right? Your Excellency, you really think highly of me. Yu Qixing shrugged. Don't try to struggle. If I can catch you once, I can catch you again. The handsome young man squinted his eyes and smiled. Then, he turned around and returned to his flying sword. The thousands of people behind him rode on the flying sword and disappeared without a trace. Yu Qixing squinted her eyes and watched him disappear. Carlos. Old Huang's lips moved, not knowing what to say. Carlos glanced at him. In the past, I didn't care who made a mistake here. Everything ends here. In the future, this kind of thing cannot happen in the prison again. Yes, Warden. All the prison guards nodded vigorously. Old Huang also clenched his fist and nodded. Yes, Warden. Chapter 2941. Get in. After running for a few minutes, he saw a small 6-seater car parked on the side of the road. Guanfeng, Jiangnan, and Yi Zichen all climbed into the car. There was a driver waiting in the car. What surprised Yi Zichen was that the driver was actually Blue Lotus Fairy. Hey, how's life in prison? Blue Lotus Fairy squinted her eyes and giggled. Yi Zichen instantly opened his eyes wide when he saw her. I said, didn't you tell me someone would help me if I went to jail? In the end, I came out on my own. Hey, why are you so angry? Blue Lotus Fairy touched her pretty face sadly. Don't you feel happy to see me? I'm the one who stabilized the clearest morale for you all this time. Ask Luo. Meng Luo and the others are about to mobilize their troops. Yes. Su Luo didn't retort. She just shrugged non-committally. Meng Luo has indeed been clamoring to attack the ancestral dragon clan. Yi Zichen didn't find that strange. With Meng Luo's temperament, it was truly possible for her to do such a thing. In the car, a question mark slowly appeared on Jiangnan's head. Attack the ancestral dragon clan. What the hell were these people talking about? Did you hear that? Luo won't lie. Blue Lotus Fairy smiles faintly. It was not easy for me to hold Meng Luo and the others back. Furthermore, you did not suffer any grievances in the prison, right? Don't you have a close female friend by your side? All of a sudden, Yi Zichen felt a chill. A threatening gaze from his sister-in-law. Even though this was the ancestral dragon clan, his sister-in-law was still very ridiculous. It was the iceberg that had just broken the door. Ice breath that froze all the prison guards. If Yi Zichen didn't want to die right now, then he better explain his relationship with Jiangnan. Well, let me introduce you. This is Jiangnan. I met her in prison. We have a cooperative relationship. Moreover, she will be our ally in the future. Yi Zichen coughed, then raised his eyebrows towards Jiangnan. Say it yourself. Hello, I am Jiangnan, the daughter of the ancestral dragon clan's master of justice. Jiangnan muttered. Hearing that she was the master of justice, the people in the car all looked at her. Jiangnan pursed her lips and said, My father, the master of justice, was killed by the master of sin. I came out of prison for revenge. The internal strife of your ancestral dragon clan is also very ridiculous. Blue Lotus Fairy smiled and raised her eyebrows. Little girl, then you should know that we are going to compete with the ruling master, right? I know. Not bad. You still dare to form an alliance with the Milky Way Lords. You have guts. Fairy Blue Lotus smiled and said, Let's leave it at that. In the short term, we probably won't have any conflicts with the ruling master. The Milky Way Overlord being detained is just a small test. What do you intend to do? Me? Yes, of course I'm going to take revenge on the evil lord. Jiangnan's eyes were filled with resentment. That dense resentment made Fairy Blue Lotus raise her eyebrows. Do you think you are a match for the Sin Lord? It's not important. Jiangnan's eyes were completely blinded by hatred. The death of my father is absolutely irreconcilable. Yes, you're right. Fairy Blue Lotus nodded. The death of your father is absolutely irreconcilable, but you can't just go and do it for free, right? With your current strength, you're far too weak. Then what should I do? Didn't I say just now? Cooperate with us. Fairy Blue Lotus shrugged. As long as you cooperate with us, we can even take down the ruling master, much less a mere Sin Lord. During this time, Yi Zichen looked at Fairy Blue Lotus, who was driving, in confusion. Is this sister all right? Since when did she have a grudge against the ruling master? How long do you need? Jiangnan frowned. I can't wait too long. Little sister, don't be in such a hurry. Take it slow, Fairy Blue Lotus comforted. As the saying goes, a gentleman can wait 10 years for revenge. The ancestral dragon clan isn't that easy to deal with. You are the daughter of the Lord of Justice, and that's why I'm willing to cooperate with you. As for how it's going to unfold, just wait for our news. All right, I'll stop here. Our conversation ends here. Fairy Blue Lotus smiled and looked towards Guanfeng. Where did you come from? Are you the descendant of some hero, or... I'm a Milky Way Lord's disciple. Guanfeng said seriously. Disciple? Yes, I came out to learn martial arts from the Milky Way Lord. That's it. Guanfeng nodded. He felt like this was already very important. What other important reason was there? Then get off. You're nothing, and you dare to sit in my car? Several hours later, they returned to Liberation City. There were no pursuers at the prison. Perhaps Jiangnan was right. Once you were released from prison, your crimes were no longer important. No one will go and capture you. What surprised Yi Zichen was that while he was gone, Su Yin and the others had bought a sizable residence. When he returned, there were no surprises. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Of course, there were no surprises. When they saw Jiangnan, they all looked at her with hostility. Yi Zichen explained Jiangnan's identity to them. After finding out about her background, everyone who had been looking at her as if she was their love rival suddenly hugged her with pitiful and regretful gazes. They even said that this was her home and that she would be a part of this team from now on. That night, Yi Zichen obtained about 4 trillion points from the prison. Including the points Qi Xing had given him, they divided them evenly. When they saw these points, everyone was shocked, including Fairy Blue Lotus. What annoyed her was that she had waited for 10-odd minutes, but in the end, she didn't get a single point. She was so angry that she wanted to run away from home. In the end, no one asked her to stay, so she found an excuse to stay. However, she only stopped when Yi Zichen transferred all the money he was supposed to give her. Jiangnan and Guanfeng naturally stayed the night as well. At that moment, the prison incident ended, and everyone went to bed early. Tomorrow was the day the ancestral dragon clan officially reopened. That was when the true battle with the master of adjudication, Zhu Ying, would begin. I'm sure her expression will be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Chapter 2942. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2937. School begins. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2943. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2938. Ranking, please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2944. The voice was piercing. Perhaps the source of the piercing sound was the mention of the human race. Yi Zichen and company couldn't help but stop when they heard this sort of racial discrimination. They looked up and saw that there was a path several dozen meters away. There was a road paved with gold bricks, and on either side of it there should have been 2 paths that branched off. At this moment, on the main road, paved with gold bricks, there were a few people looking at the people on the ground with contempt and disdain. Actually, the ancestral dragon clan was also human. However, this might be the feeling of rejection of outsiders in some places. Yi Zichen could sense their disgust towards humans from their words. The human lying on the ground was still bleeding. A few men and women stood beside him. They seemed to be his guards and members of his squad. Although they were all furious, they suppressed their anger and didn't attack. How unlucky. I've just arrived at school, and I'm already bumping into you country bumpkins. The young man from the ancestral dragon clan who stood arrogantly on the golden road sneered. The eyes were the windows to a person's soul. Yizichin could tell from his eyes that he definitely wasn't someone who was easy to get along with. Do you think you're worthy of walking the golden road? Can't you see that path? That's for you humans. Do you understand? If you dare to come to the golden road again, I'll break your legs. I don't care if you're His Majesty or Her Highness. In the ancestral dragon clan, you're just a bunch of country bumpkins. Yizichin could tell that the ancestral dragon youth seemed to have an incomparable sense of superiority. As a member of the ancestral dragon clan, it was as if he was born a level higher than the humans outside of the clan. F***CK. Meng Luo was the first to object. She grabbed her sleeves as if she wanted to beat the ancestral dragon people up. However, before she could take 2 steps, Yizichin grabbed her. Great deity, why won't you let me go? Meng Luo's eyes were filled with confusion. Listen to them. They said that we humans are country bumpkins, and that we're not worthy of walking the golden road. Why aren't we worthy? Wait, Yizichin had actually wanted to make a move at the very beginning, but he thought about it a bit before he did. It wasn't that he was afraid of the ancestral dragon race. He just didn't want to cause any trouble. Moreover, the one who was beaten up was probably a highness or highness of the human race, so he would more or less have his own pride. If there was no one around, he could endure being slapped. However, if it was seen by his colleagues, he would definitely feel ashamed and hurt his self-esteem. In the end, he might even blame Yizichin and company for being nosy. Not to mention making an enemy out of the ancestral dragon race's young talents. He wouldn't have a good reputation either. At that time, he would even be hated by this human. What's there to wait for? Naturally, Meng Luo would listen to Yizichin, but she still muttered in her heart. This broken place of the ancestral dragon clan, it's just like the rural-urban fringe. I don't know where they get their sense of superiority from. They actually think that we are country bumpkins. How arrogant. Yizichin squinted his eyes and muttered to himself. Perhaps the ancestral dragon race lives in their own world. If they don't look at the outside world, they'll never be able to compare to them. Let's not shatter their fantasies. Let's just let them continue believing they're infallible. But Meng Luo hesitated. Don't get involved in other people's business. When the time comes, we might even attract bad luck. Now's not the time to make a move yet. Let's wait a bit longer. Yizichin muttered. Someone capable of beating up His Highness is no ordinary person. He won't just endure being humiliated like this. The ancestral dragon race youth's expression was one of ridicule. Everyone who came to this school knew that the ancestral dragon race and the human race belonged to 2 different factions. That was why there was no need for sympathy or modesty when dealing with humans. Bullying them was the right thing to do. That's enough. The human who'd been slapped to the ground stood up with the help of his team members. He wiped away the blood on his face, but the handprint was still rather glaring. He looked down at the young man from the ancestral dragon clan. His azure blue eyes were filled with a bone-piercing coldness like ice and snow. If you're done, then we'll just take the small path. Soon after, the young prodigy of the human race really did lead his hand to that small path. Although his guards and team members were unwilling, they still silently retreated to the small path. However, they stared intently at the ancestral dragon race youths, as if they wanted to etch their faces deep into their minds. Etch their faces into their minds. This seemed to surprise the ancestral dragon youths, but the ridicule on their faces quickly deepened. They reached out and grabbed the human youth. You humans are really soft. Fine. Since you're so cowardly, how about this? Kneel down and crawl onto my legs, then I'll let you go. If you don't, F***CK, don't go too far. In the group of human youths, a strong-looking man glared angrily at them. What are you yelling for? HM? The ancestral dragon youth squinted his eyes and raised his hand to slap that man. Halfway through, he was grabbed by the human youth. Friend, don't go overboard. and we'll meet again in the future. You're just relying on the fact that you're from the ancestral dragon race and have a certain advantage over us humans. However, you can't always have more points than us. Do you understand? You should be glad that this is the ancestral dragon race. Ha ha ha, what are you doing? Threatening me? Suddenly, the ancestral dragon youth burst into laughter. Why? You don't feel good? Come and hit me then. If you're capable, why don't you have more points than me? Trash. You'll be trash forever. Don't go to the barren sand region. The human youth muttered. Kneel or not. The ancestral dragon youth frowned. My patience. Don't. Before he could finish his sentence, a loud sound was heard. Everyone from the ancestral dragon race and the human race looked over and saw Meng Luo clapping her hands. Zhao Xian and the others were also walking on the golden path paved with golden bricks. The ancestral dragon youth glared at Zhao Xian and the others, then glanced at his lackey, who had been tossed to the ground. Who are you? The ancestral dragon youth roared. Did you come looking for trouble? Nope. Yi Zichen smiled and shrugged. I'm a human student who just came to this school to report. This person blocked our way just now. I have a bad habit. I don't like to give way. My little sister is rather straightforward, so she just tossed him to the side. Is he one of yours? Then I'm really sorry. That's right. You blocked my way too. Are you going to scram? Or do I have to send you off? Chapter 29:45. The ancestral dragon youth's eyes seemed to spit fire. Yi Zichen looked down at him for a while, but said nothing. What's with that look? To his surprise, all he saw in Yi Zichen's eyes was pity for himself. He was looking at him as if he was an ant, as if he was looking at an ant from high position. I don't have much patience. It seems you don't want to leave on your own. Meng Luo pursed her lips and wrinkled her nose, then reached out to grab the youth's arm. You're seeking death. The young man from the ancestral dragon tribe squinted his eyes. He wasn't the one who'd been tossed out. He had countless times more points than the one who'd just been tossed out. This was also why so many people had followed him when he'd first entered the school. Kneel! The young man from the ancestral dragon clan shouted angrily. However, the moment he finished speaking, he was the one who knelt on the ground. Huh! He froze. Scram, you little ruffian. Remember, from now on, only we humans can walk this path. I'll kill any of you ancestral dragon clansmen who dare walk it. Meng Luo pointed at the ancestral dragon youth's head and used his words to respond to him. You? How is this possible? The kneeling youth frowned. He had a whopping 20 billion points. Even among the entire ancestral dragon clan, he was at the top. Although he didn't have the most points in the school, he was at least in the top 100. How'd he lose? The human in front of him actually had more than 20 billion points? Impossible. What about me? Look at you. You're no different from stray dog. How pitiful. Meng Luo's venomous tongue was at work again. Her expression was so rich it was hard not to laugh. From time to time, she curled her lips, hugged her shoulders, and shook her head. After slandering him, Meng Luo sighed. She waved her hand as if she were shooing away a fly. Her face twisted in disgust. Hurry up and get your ass over here. You've dirted this golden path. Ugh, why do I feel like vomiting? The kneeling youth's eyes reddened. His breathing quickened. You're seeking death. Boom. Points burned. A surging aura was released from his body, and a long number appeared above his head. 20 billion. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. The humans' team knit their brows, but as soon as the ancestral dragon experts burned, Yi Zichen's team unleashed their icy aura. Su Luo reached out and pulled Meng Luo back. Ice condensed on her fair palm as she caught the ancestral dragon expert's fist. Dong! A deafening roar came from the school, and the entire campus seemed to have heard it. However, when the others rushed over, they saw the young man from the ancestral dragon tribe with half his body stuck in the ground and the burning points above his head. His eyes were fixed on the distance of the golden road. 200 billion. The woman who had burned her points and was as cold as an iceberg actually had 200 billion points. How could this be? Weren't they from the human race? Why do they have so many points? The little girl who made him kneel. The woman who burned 200 billion points. Could the other members of his team have more points than him? If that was the case, then wouldn't their team be in the trillions? No, that was absolutely impossible. The humans had only been in the ancestral dragon clan for less than half a year. They didn't have any businesses here, so they couldn't have the support of thousands or even tens of thousands of years of inheritance like the natives. There was no way they could have trillions. But where did that little girl and the iceberg woman get those points from? Did the human staff give them the points? Wasn't that cheating? No matter how hard the ancestral dragon youth thought, he couldn't figure out where Yi Zichen's team had gotten their points. Nor would he believe that their team really had trillions. It was a whopping 4 trillion, but Yi Zichen and the others couldn't be bothered to care. They could think whatever they wanted. In any case, they had the points. If the ancestral dragon clan wanted to investigate, they could. Zhu Ying probably didn't have the face to do so. Hadn't she done enough disgusting things? If they were still shameless enough to cause trouble for him because of his points, then let's fight. There was no way out. What was the point of staying here? If I didn't like it, then fight. Big Sister Luer, thank you. Meng Lu giggled as she ran to Su Luer's side and hooked her arm. She hadn't expected the ancestral dragon clan member to have over 1 billion points. She hadn't even considered burning her points. When he did, she didn't even have time to react. Fortunately, Su Luer followed suit and subdued him. Be more careful in the future, murmured Su Luer. Hee, I know, said Meng Lu with a giggle. She pressed her face against Su Luer's arm. Big Sister Luer, your skin is so smooth and cool. It's so comfortable. Su Luer sighed helplessly. She really couldn't keep her cool when it came to this eccentric little girl. Back in the immortal, demon, and demon realms, she'd clearly been known as an iceberg. But from what happened just now, it's clear that our batch of students is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons, said Hua Jianro. Hua Jianro said, 20 billion isn't a small number. I'm sure there'll be even more in this school. That's right. Baiyu nodded. Isn't that obvious? When we arrived, the people from the Universe Union Bank told us all about it. The school's ranking is based on points. The ancestral dragon clan natives have a natural advantage over us. Yi Zichen shrugged matter-of-factly. Never mind 10 billion. It's not impossible even if it's 1 trillion. The flame rat's eyes widened. Then shouldn't we pool our points together? That way, we'll be able to get a higher ranking. There's no need for that right now. Yi Zichen muttered to himself for a moment, then frowned. When we officially enter the school and the ceremony ends, we'll look at the points and rewards first. Then, we'll rationalize the distribution and try to maximize our memory. Before entering the school, I didn't realize that points would be the key to our ranking. Now, that our ranking affects the resources we receive, a distribution of 200 billion points per person isn't very rational. That's right. Baiyu pursed his lips. The higher we go, the greater the difference in points. It's possible that a ranking of 200 billion is no different from a ranking of 10 billion. If that happens, the extra points will go to waste. We really do need to think about it carefully. We'll think about that later. Yi Zichen smiled. Redistribution of points was a given. For the sake of resources, they had to ensure that they could obtain as many resources as possible. Yi Zichen guessed that this sort of thing would eventually become a psychological game for the students. The night before the rankings were to be distributed, there was no way that Yi Zichen's group would be the only one to redistribute the points. All the other groups and ancestral dragon students would do the same. However, they didn't need to worry about that right now. They still needed to go to the dorms and take a look. At that moment, please wait a moment. They looked behind them and saw that the person chasing after them was none other than the member of the human group that had been bullied. Chapter 2946. In truth, Yi Zichen didn't want to interact with them. He couldn't be bothered to put on airs and pretend that he was helping them. Indeed, they had good intentions and didn't want to see their comrades bullied. But again, their good intentions didn't necessarily mean the other party would accept them. Yi Zichen was too immersed in his own happiness to say that. It was fine if the other party acknowledged his help, but if they thought he was being a busybody, then he'd just be asking for trouble. That's why, after dealing with the ancestral dragon clan member, they didn't say anything to the human team and just left. To think they'd come looking for him themselves. Yi Zichen shrugged at the others and stopped. What is it? Thank you for your help just now. The human youth smiled kindly, his sapphire eyes filled with sincerity. Are you also from the human clan? If you're not, then who cares? Meng Luo twitched her mouth. Yi Zichen rubbed her head, then turned to the human team and whispered, My little sister's a bit rude. My little sister is a bit rude. Don't mind her. What we did just now was nothing more than lifting a finger. I didn't mean to help you. Even without us, I'm sure you could have dealt with it. We were just passing by. In an instant, the expressions of the members of the human clan group changed. It could be said that Yi Zichen's words just now had left them with enough face, leaving them with a piece of cloth to cover their embarrassment. Heh. Instead, the blue-eyed youth shrugged and muttered, Thank you for giving us a way out. But to tell the truth, we really couldn't have dealt with the problem just now. If you hadn't helped us in time. The blue-eyed youth hesitated. Meng Luo was stunned. No way. Are you serious? Are you going to kneel down to that person? Why not? The blue-eyed youth shrugged calmly. We have no way of resolving this conflict with that ancestral dragon clan member. It's been so long, yet no one from the school has come. That means they don't want to care either. In truth, I reckon, the people of this school might be more than happy to see His Majesty and Her Highness Lu's face. The people around him fell silent, and the other members of his team also looked a little down. If my kneeling can guarantee my team's safety, then I'm willing to kneel. Nothing is more important than my life. It's just the humiliation of my crotch. There's nothing unacceptable about it. I don't think it's a shame. It's just a spur. As long as you keep it in mind, there will come a day when you will get it back. You can't always be an expert, and I can't always be this weak. Everyone who heard this couldn't help but be moved. Not to mention them, geniuses of the humankind. Even some ordinary people couldn't be so calm. This person would definitely achieve great things in the future. To be able to say something like that so calmly, it was clear just how magnanimous this person was. Ha ha! I almost forgot. I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm a prince from the Alchemy Guild. These people are from my clan, and they are here to participate in the ancestral dragon clan's trial. The blue-eyed youth smiled, while the others nodded towards Yi Zichen. You didn't bring any guards? Meng Luo blinked. Guards, how could I bear to do something so extravagant? Mu Xinghua shrugged with a smile. Our people told us that your highness can only bring 3 people. Every spot in the ancestral dragon clan is extremely precious. Only those highnesses might be willing to bring a single guard. Meng Luo and the others subconsciously glanced at Yi Zichen. It seems like each of their teams has 2 guards. Oh yeah, I still don't know where you guys came from. I think there are 11 of you here, right? Mu Xinghua looked around, then muttered. Did your 2 teams meet up? No. Ooh. Before Meng Luo could speak, Hua Jinro covered her mouth, so she could only let out muffled sounds. I am Yi Zichen, the Majesty of the Virtual World Corporation. At that moment, Yi Zichen called out to Mu Xinghua. Yi Zichen, the Majesty of the Virtual World Corporation? Mu Xinghua was momentarily stunned. You're a Milky Way Lord? Yes. Yi Zichen smiled, then turned around. We're going to the dorms. Do you want to come with us? Everyone walked towards the dorms together. Upon learning that Yi Zichen was a Milky Way Lord, Mu Xinghua's team seemed rather nervous. They silently followed behind, not daring to utter a single word. This surprised Yi Zichen. He'd seen his fair share of her eminences and highnesses, but he'd never met anyone so cautious. Mu Xinghua, what's up with you guys? Milky Way Lord, Mu Xinghua coughed. It's nothing. I just didn't expect to run into you. What? Are you afraid of coming with me? That's not it, said Mu Xinghua. You should know, right? In your trial with His Highness Kakad, more than 90% of her eminences and highnesses lost. I know. What was there to not know? From the start, if he'd won, a large number of people would have gone bankrupt. Did you know that many people's points went negative? I know. Then did you know that the various her eminences and highnesses formed a subjugation team just to find you? Hearing that, Yi Zichen was stunned, then looked at what gives fire in surprise. Crusade team? Yes, it's filled with people who were bankrupted by you and Karkat in the trial. They all said that the two of you deliberately caused them to lose so miserably. So they thought that they would band together and cause you some trouble in school. Wood birthing fire whispered carefully. Yizichin couldn't help but laugh when he heard that. These majesties and princes really hated him a lot. They had even formed a crusade team. There's so many people inside. Who pulled the strings? Yizichin raised his eyebrows. His Holiness of the Mercenary Alliance, Lion Hong, did it. It's him. Yizichin didn't raise his eyebrows in surprise. Instead, Meng Luo yelled out, "He's so shameless. Don't let me see him. Every time I see him, I'll beat him up." Whoa. This time, Yizichin covered Meng Luo's mouth. "Go, behave yourself, and go play with Baiyu." Yizichin patted her head, then looked down at Wood birthing fire. "So you're saying that you're afraid of them thinking that you know me?" "Ugh. How do you know all this?" Wood birthing fire coughed, then muttered, "I'm in that group as well." Chapter 29:47. That's a bit hard to bear. Everyone in Wood birthing fire's group glared at him, as if they wanted to say, "You idiot, why did you say that?" Meng Luo and the others all looked at him with similar gazes. Of course, they were thinking the same thing. How dare you say this out loud? You're so stupid. Even Yizichin couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at Mu Xinghua and doubted what he had heard. At the start, he had guessed that Mu Xinghua might have heard it from someone else, which was why he could say it so calmly. Otherwise, why would he say it? "Let me tell you, we have a group to take care of you. I'm in that group as well, and I'm one of the many people who want to take care of you." He was a bit dumb. Even if he really was in there, he couldn't say it out loud, could he? Seriously, what was this bro thinking? I won't lie. Mu Xinghua pursed his lips and smiled wryly when he sensed his teammates and Yizichin's gazes. Then, I really am in there. I can't say that I'm not in, right? I'm in there, and I was one of the first to enter the group. Hurry up and stop talking. Mu Xinghua's clansmen looked at him speechlessly. He's still talking. Can't you see that the Milky Way Lord's people are watching us? Why, you actually want to bully our great god? Meng Luo glared angrily. If we knew, then we wouldn't have saved you. We would have just let them bully you to death. You can't blame me. Mu Xinghua shrugged helplessly and tried to explain himself. I bet everything I had. In the end, the Milky Way Lord won and made me lose everything. Of course I'm angry. When His Majesty Lion Hong sent me an invite, I directly entered the group. Mu Xinghua was probably a bit stubborn, not to mention his clansmen. Even Yizichin was speechless. Friend, Yizichin patted Mu Xinghua's shoulder. What is it, Milky Way Lord? Mu Xinghua's eyes were filled with confusion. What I said was the truth. I was really pissed off at that time. I just wanted to make you suffer. It would be even better if I could snatch the points back. Do you want to beat you up? Yizichin muttered softly. All of a sudden, Wood birthing fire visibly gulped, then tilted his head and looked at Yizichin for a while. No, that's enough. Stop talking. Yizichin sighed deeply, then scratched his head. Milky Way Lord, don't overthink things. I was just explaining my situation. I'm leaving the group. You helped us a lot just now. Not only do I not hate you, but you are also my great benefactor. Mu Xinghua said seriously, I'm speaking the truth. All right, I got it. He could sense that Wood Spirit and Fire Spirit did not have any hostility towards him. If they did, he would not have taken the initiative to attack them, since they were both humans. However, he would not travel with people like Mu Xinghua. Even though there was no enmity, the way this fellow spoke was indeed a little hard to understand. What was he thinking in his heart? Milky Way Lord, my brother has become stupid from refining pills. Please don't take it to heart. A tall woman walked out from Wood Spirit's group. She had a silver brand on her forehead, just like Wood Spirit's. That was probably their clan's brand. How did I become stupid? I'm just speaking the truth. How did I? Before Wood Spirit could finish, another young man from his clan covered his mouth and dragged him back. Thus, they arrived at the dormitories in silence. The Ancestral Dragon Tribe's Hero Academy's dormitory area wasn't small. Although there were only 2 buildings, the area occupied by each building was ridiculously large. Looking at it from the outside, each room looked like a standalone villa. These villas were built in the middle of a large building. The ancestral dragon clan. They really are keeping the human race and the ancestral dragon clan apart. Yi Zichen glanced at the two buildings. The two buildings housed the ancestral dragon clan and the human race. They were not mixed. The two buildings were in opposition, just like the relationship between the human race and the ancestral dragon clan. They were in opposition. Before they parted, Yi Zichen and Huamusheng exchanged contact information. Of course, Yi Zichen definitely wouldn't have taken the initiative. Yi Zichen found the room according to the number on the card, then swiped open the door like a modern hotel. Just as Yi Zichen had imagined from the outside, it was indeed a small, independent mansion inside. There were a total of 3 floors with a bathroom, kitchen, entertainment hall, and training area. This place is not bad. Su Yin looked around the room and nodded in satisfaction. Indeed, it's not bad. Yi Zichen nodded. Just then knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. Who would come here? Hua Jinro frowned, while Yi Zichen also looked toward the entrance. Probably a neighbor. Meng Luo, open the door and take a look. Meng Luo, who was standing closest to the door, ran over and opened it. Hello, I'm your next-door neighbor. Alchemy Guild's Highness, Huamusheng, they are my clans. Milky Way Lords? How could it be you? What a coincidence. Huamusheng exclaimed in surprise. The people in the room looked at the door in surprise. Huamusheng and the others seemed to be surprised as well. Yi Zichen couldn't help but facepalm. Didn't you go upstairs? Yeah, I just went up to take a look. I didn't see any difference, so I came back. Huamusheng smiled. Milky Way Lord, our two groups really are fated. I didn't think we were actually neighbors. Let's help each other out more in the future. Just don't mention my house number in the group. Yi Zichen sighed helplessly, then raised his hand towards Meng Luo. Tell them to come in. Little Meng Luo wrinkled her nose and snorted coldly. These people actually wanted to bully the great god. She didn't like them at all. Milky Way Lord, I already left the group. Mu Xinghua smiled. Mu Xinghua smiled and said, when you said you were the Milky Way Lord, I immediately left the group. I definitely won't be in cahoots with them. If they cause trouble for you, I, Mu Xinghua, will be the first to step up. Are you sure you're that kind of person? How could a person who is willing to endure the humiliation of being under someone else's crotch be willing to risk his life for a stranger whom he had just met? This was simply impossible. Let's not talk about that. You might as well not leave the group. If you really want it, then why don't you be my spy in the group? That might be of some use. I'm here. Suddenly, the young man from Mu Xinghua's group raised his hand. I'm still in the group. I'll be the spy. Chapter 2948. You? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows at the young man. He's my uncle, little uncle. Mu Linsun. Mu Xinhua introduced softly. As soon as he finished speaking, wood engendering fire stood up. Milky Way Lord, how about we get to know each other? My little uncle, Mu Linsun, is a general. This is my little sister, Mu Jing, a commander-level expert. The tall woman who'd spoken to Yi Zichen earlier smiled and nodded. This is my nephew, Mu Sankai, a commander-level expert. Then, Yi Zichen saw the oldest person in the group step forward. Just from his appearance alone, he could be considered everyone's uncle. Yi Zichen and the others were stunned. This is actually his nephew. Mu Xinhua couldn't help but smile when he noticed everyone else's expressions. My nephew looks rather old. Outsiders say that he's the oldest here, but in truth, he's only lived for less than 200 years. Wow, 200 years. Meng Luo looked at Mu Sankai in shock. Yi Zichen knew that she wasn't surprised that Mu Sankai had grown so old, but that the youngest here had already lived for 200 years. She, Baiyu the Flame Rat. They were all newborns. Less than 100 years. Only Hua Jinro might be slightly older, but she was only a little over 100 years old. In truth, they were all relatively young in the human race. Of course, in the human race, there was no such thing as age. You might find a human on the streets of some planet and find that they'd already lived for several hundred years. Needless to say, those above the domain level had to be at least a few hundred years old. Those who could break through to the domain level in just a few decades. In the human race as a whole, they were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Of course, They were at the very top of the rare. As a result, many so-called geniuses were born. Then, the geniuses were filtered out, resulting in the current Her Majesty, Her Highness, and strategy team. Yeah, 200 years. That's pretty young. Mushin was said. He was telling the truth. 200 years was actually relatively young in the human race. What's more, a 200-year-old commander-level expert was already quite talented. Lastly, Mu Xinghua's tone suddenly sank, and he said with a serious expression, "I will begets fire. Earl class, 500 years." The count. The talent and strength of a 500-year count was indeed not bad. It had to be said that Her Majesty and Her Highness, chosen by the 8 powerhouses of the human race, were both extremely talented. The introduction of the members of the Wood to Fire group ended. Yi Zichen and the others all said their names, but didn't mention their strength. They didn't need to mention their strength. Their names were enough of a signboard, and there was no need for them to use their strength to attract the other party's attention. Moreover, there was no point in mentioning it. They didn't have any earls here. Most of them were at the commander level. Although Yi Zichen was very impressive, he was only at the general level. As for Su Yin and Xia Kiki, they were only at the edge of the universe level. Understood. They were considered to have formed an alliance. Mu Xinghua grinned and raised his eyebrows at everyone. From now on, we will be allies in the Attack and Defense Alliance. If anyone finds trouble with the Galactic Lord, we will do our best to help. Are you sure? Mu Xinghua chuckled dryly when he noticed Yi Zichen's doubtful gaze. He wasn't too sure. He was the type of person who prioritized survival. Without absolute confidence and strength, he definitely wouldn't choose to act impulsively. Just like when he was humiliated by the people of the Ancestral Dragon clan, he still chose to endure it and not clash head-on with them based on the atmosphere in his heart. Lion Hong of the Mercenary Alliance had an extremely high status among the overlords. He had the entire Heavenly Lion clan behind him. His father's generation was also an outstanding figure among the overlords. What's more, Mu Xinghua, who had personally joined the subjugation group, knew very well just what kind of trouble Yi Zichen would face in the future. He was just a highness, not even overlord. What's more, in terms of background and strength, he was at most below average among the overlords and highnesses. Heh. Mu Xinghua smiled inexplicably. I can provide intelligence to the Galactic Lord. My little uncle is still in the group. If they want to touch you, I'll notify the Galactic Lord immediately. Coward. Meng Luo twitched her mouth in disdain. From Mu Xinghua's tone, she knew that he definitely wouldn't dare to fight. Mu Xinghua pretended like he didn't hear anything. So what if he was a coward? The world didn't care about who was strong-willed. It cared about who lived longer. Only when you were alive could you have a future. If you died, no matter how amazing you were in life, you'd just be a memory that people cherished. After a few years, perhaps you'd even lose your memories. At most, some people would occasionally mention you and feel sorry for you. That was all. If you wanted to truly stand at the peak of the world, you had to stay alive. Plenty of human geniuses had died young. Those geniuses that died prematurely were all living examples, spurring on wood to fire to seek survival in a stable environment. It's already good enough that we have this information. Yi Zichen didn't take it to heart. If this were any other place, he might have been wary of the overlords and highnesses teaming up and threatening him. But now, he had nothing to be afraid of. He wasn't talking nonsense. Even if the overlords and highnesses combined their accumulated points, they still wouldn't be able to get as many points as a random person from his group. Their points would absolutely crush him. No matter how much they teamed up, in Yi Zichen's eyes, they were just a motley crew. Yi Zichen wasn't just spouting nonsense. Even if all the overlords and highnesses were in front of him, he'd still call them a motley crew. What else could they be? A bunch of people who couldn't even break through Yi Zichen's point barrier. There was nothing to fear. Even if Yi Zichen stood in front of them and let them fight for 3 days and 3 nights, if he took even a single step back, he'd still lose. This was self-confidence. Is there any news in the group? Asked Yi Zichen. No. Mu Linson shook his head. I saw just now. The group is very quiet. I don't think anyone has seen the Milky Way Lord yet, so the group doesn't have much of a presence. Once someone sees you, they'll probably start to get lively. They haven't seen me yet? Yi Zichen muttered to himself for a moment, then licked his lips. That means I have to make an eye-catching entrance. Yi Zichen grinned inexplicably, then raised his eyebrows at Mu Linson. How about you pull me into the group? How about it? Chapter 2949. Is this all right? Although Mu Linson wasn't as cautious as Mu Xinhua, he was still shocked when he heard Yi Zichen's words. This is going to enter the enemy's base? That's definitely not a smart move. What's the big deal? We're all Her Majesties and Majesties of the Ancestral Dragon Clan. What's wrong with getting to know each other? Yi Zichen smiled nonchalantly. Get them in. That's no good. 10 minutes later, everyone in the living room stared at Yi Zichen's virtual projection. Brother-in-law, you're amazing. Mu Xinhua gave a thumbs up and looked at Mu Linson with admiration. This is something I don't dare to do in my entire life. This is nothing. What the Milky Way Lord is going to do is the big deal. Mu Linson muttered. That's right. Yi Zichen entered the group. The projection showed the group chat page, and the name at the top was Milky Way Lord Subjugation Group. Isn't this a bit too much? Mu Jing frowned. The Milky Way Lord is going to challenge the entire subjugation group. There are more than 3,000 majesties and Her Majesties there. That's more than 3,000 groups. What's there to be afraid of? We've seen this sort of thing many times. Mu Jing frowned. She didn't seem to care how big of a commotion she was going to cause. Big Brother Zichen is really brave. Xia Kiki also nodded. Su Yin shrugged helplessly. He was the type of person who feared nothing back on Earth. Although Su Yin felt that it was a bit dangerous now, she could only support him. It's always hard to understand the thoughts of a hothead, Su Luer snorted. Su Luer crossed her arms and sneered coldly, but she kept sneaking glances at the projection out of the corner of her eye, afraid of missing any exciting moments. As expected of our Lord, Winnie muttered, All hail the great deity! Charge! The flame rats cheered. Bai Yu and Hua Jinro looked at each other and shrugged. At that moment, the projection changed. Hey! A message appeared in the group chat. The appearance of this piece of news was like a pebble falling into the calm surface of a lake, causing ripples to spread out in all directions. It's starting. The battle is about to begin. Get ready. High energy warning ahead. Don't blink. Exclamations sounded out in the living room, while Yi Zichen, who was immersed in the virtual world, was completely calm. Why was no one paying attention to him? What are the people in this group doing? Can't they come out and interact with each other? Hello, is there anyone here? Come out and talk. There was a loud noise in the sky, and the mysterious guest made his appearance. Yi Zichen thought for a moment, then sent 2 more messages in the group. During this time, Qini even glanced at the group leader. Lion Hong, it really was that little bastard. It seemed that beating him up last time did not make him behave. He actually sent a crusade team to find trouble with him. He glanced at the members of the group. 9,679 people. Perhaps some members of Her Majesty and Her Highness team were also invited. Even so, the number of Her Majesty and Her Highness that came was ridiculous. Were there so many people in the 8 magnates? The people who came to the Ancestral Dragon Clan should not only be from the 8 great leaders. There should be other human forces who bought seats for their clansmen. Since none of that was important, I can't ignore the others. I definitely have to teach that little bastard Lion Hong a lesson when I catch him. If I don't beat him up, then he really won't learn his lesson. I have to beat him into submission. Approximately half a minute later, Lion Hong, who are you? He popped up, and it just so happens to be the main character, Lion Hong. This guy's name in the group was his name. Yi Zichen saw that the others had also noted down the forces they belonged to. For example, the people from the Mercenary Alliance would have Mercenary Alliance in front, followed by their name and rank, which was Her Majesty or Her Highness. The people from the Virtual World Corporation had Virtual World in front. Virtual World Corporation. Yi Zichen subconsciously looked at the members of the group again and searched with the keywords Virtual World Corporation. There were more than 70 of them. Phew. Great. People from the same side also entered the group. No matter what, they're all from the Virtual World Corporation. Is there a need to be so extreme? Even if Zhu Ying had aggroed him previously, there was no need to hate him to this extent. right? It's fine if they don't help each other, but they even joined the crusade team to attack me? That's too sad. Disappointment. I'm utterly disappointed in Her Majesty and Her Highness of this corporation. Yi Zichen took a screenshot without thinking and sent it to Wen Li's chat. Sis, I saw in the crusade team that the Her Majesty of the Mercenary Alliance formed to attack me. I didn't expect to see our people here. I'm so excited. He didn't mean anything else. He just wanted Wen Li Jie to take a look. He definitely didn't mean anything else. Seeing that Wen Li didn't reply for a long time, Yi Zichen guessed that she was probably busy. Thus, he didn't wait any longer and clicked on the crusade team again. Mystery guest, guess. Everyone, who was watching the projection outside, burst out in laughter when they saw his message. It wasn't that the message was funny. It was mainly because of his name in the group. Mystery guest. The Lord of the Milky Way is really good. Mu Shenghua shook his head. Mu Shenghua shook his head. This mysterious guest is giving me a headache. Ha ha. Great deities are humorous. Meng Luo laughed. There's nothing wrong with being a mystery guest. Isn't the Lord of the Milky Way a mystery guest in that group? And he's even a special invite. Mu Linsen also spoke up. Just as everyone discussed and laughed, another message popped up in the group. Lion Hong. The members of the group need to make a note in order to make it easier for them to get to know each other. Please change your note as soon as possible. Mystery guest. Why didn't you change it? Lion Hong, who was sitting in his dorm waiting for the new student entrance ceremony, frowned. Do you guys know this mystery guest? Everyone in the room shook their heads silently. They had seen the messages in the group, but they didn't say anything. Who would go to the group to get a sense of existence? They came here to seek a breakthrough. If it wasn't for Lion Hong's father, they wouldn't even bother to enter the group. Lion Hong frowned, then returned to the group. Lion Hong, I don't need a note as the group owner. Is there anyone in the group that doesn't know me? Lion Hong, who sent this message, was rather proud. Mystery guest, I don't know you. Who are you? All of a sudden, Lion Hong's expression changed, while his gaze turned hostile. Lion Hong, who pulled this person in? Lion Hong, who exactly is it? Mystery guest, what are you yelling for? Why do you care who pulled me in? I'm just asking you. Why are you so good at pretending? Why don't you use a prefix? Where are you from? Lion Hong, who exactly are you? Hurry up and change your name. Lion Hong, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't change and let me find out, then you won't have a good time. Mystery guest, Zaziz, scaring people. Mystery guest, I'll change it, all right? Then, Yi Zichen messed around in the group. Sky Lion Overlord. Look, is this name okay? Chapter 2950. Heavenly Lion Overlord. Yi Zichen felt like this name change was pretty good. He subtly expressed his desire to be Lion Hong's father and didn't insult him too obviously. They're all lords and majesties of the human race. They're all people of status. How could they do such a vile thing? It can't be. Yi Zichen felt like he was a highly moral person, so he had to maintain his identity when he was outside. Ugh. Meng Luo, who had been paying attention to the projection, coughed. Great deity, huh? Heavenly Lion Overlord? This person seems to have heard it. Meng Luo, you said it in the Heaven and Earth Trading Company, right? Xia Kiki asked. Yeah, Meng Luo nodded, then laughed out loud without caring about her image. Heavenly Lion Overlord is Lion Hong's father. Only then did Xia Kiki giggle, as did everyone else in the living room. Even the icy Su Lu couldn't help but laugh. As for Aelin, he was born with a poker face and was a man of few words. He might have found this scene amusing, but he didn't laugh. Milky Way Lord, seriously. Mu Shenhua shook his head with a sigh. Does he have a grudge with Lion Hong? Is there a need to be so cruel? Grudge. That's a huge grudge. Lion Hong wants to steal my bai. Just as Meng Luo was about to speak, Hua Jinro covered her mouth and glared at her. She really dares to say anything? Can't she see Zichen's two wives? Why didn't you let Meng Luo speak? Xia Kik's eyes were filled with confusion. Meanwhile, Suyin glanced at Baiyu vaguely, as if she already understood everything. Nothing. Hua Jinro waved her hand and changed the topic, then glared at Mu Shenhua with an unfriendly expression. Why do you have so much to say? Calm down and watch. Asking this and that. If we told you, could it be that you'd beat up Lion Hong for us? Mu Shenhua pursed his lips silently and didn't say anything. The person in front of him was the daughter of the Hidden Planet's Flower Clan, the next clan head of the Flower Clan. Although their Mu family wasn't bad in the universe, but compared to a peak family like the Hua family, they still couldn't be compared. Moreover, a true man doesn't fight with a woman. Indeed, the members of the top family clans all played with the members of the top family clans. Take the Milky Way Overlord, for example. In his group, there were members of all four of Planet Yin's great families. This was unimaginable in other groups. The universe still had a very clear hierarchy. After glaring fiercely at Mu Shenhua, Hua Jianro frowned at Meng Luo and knocked her head. At this moment, in a Lion team's dormitory. Courting death. Fury appeared in Lion Hong's eyes when he saw Yi Zichen change the note. From the anger in his eyes, one could see just how angry he was at this moment. The other people in the dormitory were silent. Under such a furious situation, it was best not to get involved. It was best not to move at all. If they moved, it might be a mistake. Lion Hong. TSK, TSK, TSK. He actually didn't get angry and start scolding in the group. It seemed like he cared a lot about his image in front of so many majesties. Yi Zichen was certain that there were definitely a lot of people watching in private. Lion Hong. Sire, what do you mean? Sky Lion Overlord. Didn't you tell me to make a note? I feel like this is pretty good. Lion Hong. You did it on purpose? Sky Lion Overlord. You can understand it that way. Am I not being obvious? Sky Lion Overlord. Lion Hong, you're not right. Sky Lion Overlord. Shouldn't you respectfully call me Lord Father when you see my name? You actually dare to say sire to me, you unfilial descendant. I'll beat you up. Silence. Yi Zichen, who was immersed in the virtual network, couldn't help but smile. This grandson is probably pissed to death. Definitely, Bailey replied with a smile. That's too insulting. Lion Hong is someone who cares about his face, so he's definitely furious. He might even... AI, you got kicked. Yi Zichen glanced at the group chat. You have been kicked out. You got kicked just like that. Yi Zichen let out a deep breath, then exited the virtual network. AI, Mu-Lin-sun, pull me one more time. This was just the beginning. Yi Zichen didn't even get to say what he wanted to say before he got kicked. How could he accept that? Ugh. Mu-Lin-sun remained silent for a moment, then revealed a wry expression. Don't. Right now, Lion Hong will definitely keep an eye on who pulled you into the group. If I bring you in, then our Mu family is finished. No one noticed when I pulled you in just now, but now, even though Mu-Lin-sun didn't say the rest, Yi Zichen already had a rough understanding of the situation. What's more, he couldn't let Mu-Lin-sun and company get into a grudge with Lion Hong just to satisfy his own selfish desires. It was just a pity that his performance had only just begun. Zichen, the entrance ceremony is about to begin. At that moment, Suyin walked up and held Yi Zichen's hand. How did you know? A famous card. Suyin held the identity crystal card between her fingers. Just now, the crystal card sent a message. Tell all the new students to go to the people area to prepare for the entrance ceremony. This card is even connected to the internet. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows in surprise, then looked at the card. Did you inject the points? No. Suyin shook her head. Didn't you say that you wanted to see the exact situation? That's right. Can you see the ranking now? Yes. Meng Luo nodded. Right now, the first place is Yunlan. His points are 10, 100, 1,000. Wow, this person. Meng Luo looked at Yi Zichen in shock. 7 trillion, Suyin said calmly. Right now, the first place has 7 trillion, the second place has 2 trillion, and the third place has 700 billion. Let me take a look. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and connected the crystal card. A blue projection appeared in front of him. It really did feel high-tech, but it was a bit different from the Ancestral Dragon Clan's 90s style. Find the points. Yi Zichen inserted 1 point, and the ranking appeared. 1 point. Yi Zichen's current position was 24,769. There are so many students. Yi Zichen frowned. One had to know that his current position was not the lowest in the school. There were still many people with negative points below him, and they were probably the unlucky Her Majesty and Her Highness. Of course, there weren't that many people. It was only less than 1,000. It was likely that many people had either mortgaged their points or worked to earn a lot of points after coming to the Ancestral Dragon clan. Otherwise, there were several thousand Her Majesty's trial teams that bet on Yi Zichen's failure. Ding dong. Attention, students. The entrance ceremony will begin in 30 minutes. Please prepare in advance.